Hey, what's up? Hello, everyone. Welcome into Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name's Matt.
My name's Dyl, and today we're actually turning movies into sports for like the first time in a long time.
Basically, yeah.
But I'm really excited because, yes, this video is coming out in April. We're recording on April 3rd, 4th, something like that. Yeah. Originally, we were going to record this in mid-March to coincide with March Madness.
Normally, we do our first predictions of the year in March, but life's crazy right now.
It is. I mean, you have film school. I have a new job. We haven't had time to get together because we love doing these predictions together. Yeah. But this year, like I said, we're coinciding with March Madness. That means we want to bring you guys out there a bracket for award season because we could do this in a lame way where, like how we did last year, we went studio by studio saying, hey, this is what Warner has, this is what Neon has. But, I mean, that's been done before. We could break it down by so many sort of things. But this year, we want to be unique. We want to be different, especially because we're not going to be first. So we're going to have so many different regions that are going to be sorted by different types of awards players.
Something that I noticed going through the past few years is that you can kind of break down the types of movies that get into Best Picture into 4 categories. And every year for the past 5 years, there's been at least 2 movies in each of these categories nominated for Best Picture. And those are blockbusters. Those are auteur films or more classical Oscar bait from what we think of. There's indie movies and there's non-English language films, and we're getting more and more of those every year. So what we're doing is we're going to break down a bracket. We're going to make regions based on, I think we have 64 films total today.
We do, yeah.
64 films total, 4 regions, 16 films in each region, talking, and we're going to just pit them against each other and see what the most likely contenders are from each of those different fields. So we're covering a lot today.
Yeah, we're going to cover a lot, and that's the cool thing with each of these regions is we can separate them by the different types of films like you're saying, but because we're 2 people here, we have our own biases, our preconceived notions, so our seedings are based off of all of you out there on Awards Expert. Yes, we have our community, which you can join in the description down below, but we're doing this off of, Awards Expert at large, just like 10, 20,000 predictions out there already, so our seeds are based off of those.
Yeah, it's like the general vibe of right now. So this isn't just us saying, this is what we think is the 16th seed in this category. No, we went through and kind of picked out which films we feel fall into each category, and we took the top 16 of those, and that's what we're doing today.
Yeah, so I guess let's break these categories down real quick before we fully dive into our bracket here. The first one is what most people would consider as the populace, the blockbusters out there. We've seen year after year, at least one of these movies crashes the Best Picture race, even if they may not be the best regarded movie.
And recently, it's been 3 or 4 every year.
Yeah, it's getting more and more populous year after year. Last year, we saw the likes of F1 take that 10th slot. The year before, there was Wicked and Dune Part 2. You go back a few more years, there's Top Gun, Maverick, Barbie, the first Dune. There's always at least one blockbuster that kind of cements itself in the race of maybe not being top 5, but at least secure 100% Best Picture by the morning of.
And we would disagree on this, but I'd put Sinners in that category last year. This probably would have been our 16th seed last year.
Yeah, I think it could have been in that category, or it could be in our next one.
It could be. I think you could argue that it could be in the auteur filmmaker category / traditional Oscar bait. This is like prestige filmmakers making prestige films from prestige studios. So it's got that big backing, and it's got a filmmaker with a name behind them. One Battle After Another would have fit in this category last year. We've also seen big biopics like A Complete Unknown. Last year, I think Springsteen would have been in here.
Yeah.
And Christopher Nolan, I think, would routinely typically be in Blockbuster, but Oppenheimer would have been in here because it's more like a traditional prestige Oscar-type movie.
And I think that's a great point to bring up Oppenheimer. That's a film that you could kind of plug into multiple of these categories. So if you disagree with a category, that might be why it may fit more so in maybe we put in blockbuster, but it could also come into auteur, or maybe for some cases, maybe not for blockbuster, but you can make a case for our next region being the indies. This is something that typically is from a director who hasn't really had their moment to shine quite yet. Think of stuff like Train Dreams last year, debuting at Sundance and running the whole season, getting into Oscar morning. Past lies behind its critical acclaim, or even something like Anora, where it wins the Palme d'Or, and it's the little indie that could all season long.
Yeah, Anora is a great example of the indie player, something that's coming with a small budget, and it's coming from a studio like Neon, and it has that sort of auteur appeal to it, but it's not from someone who has typically made Oscar movies. So we're going to see a lot of indie films succeed. I think Everything Everywhere All at Once is probably like the biggest example we've had in this category.
And that would have been a fun one if we did this bracket back then of what seed would it have been, because I know you were really early on it. Awards Expert came towards, I think it was the end of that season. Maybe it was the start of the next season, but it was when I feel like at large people really weren't behind until maybe like the TIFF range.
This was pre-Awards Expert, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was more a Gold Derby era. And I wonder how Awards Expert would have taken to that film. But the last category we're going to talk about is the non-English language / Arthouse category, because I think that there's some crossover, right? Like something like Triangle of Sadness is in English, but it fits into this category. So this is the Arthouse, the international, and since Parasite's win back in 2019, possibly even since Roma's big run at the Oscars in 2018, we've been seeing more and more of these international films make it into the Academy Awards race. Think stuff like Drive My Car coming out of nowhere, even to our first ever year with two non-English language films, The Zone of Interest and Anatomy of a Fall, which has sort of become commonplace now because we now had Emilia Perez and I'm Still Here and Sentimental Value and The Secret Agent. And it's likely that last year we almost had three because It Was Just an Accident was probably next in line. So this is more and more happening. Cannes and the Venice Film Festival, they are kingmakers, and we need to start looking out for those films early in the season because the Academy is more open to them than ever before. That breaks down our 4 regions that we're going to be talking about today, pitting these movies head to head, because it's not just studios or filmmakers that get slots. It's the types of movies and the types of audience members and voters that secure these movies their spots.
So like I said before, instead of just giving you a generic top 10, we're going to do it this way. We'll still give you our personal top 10s at the very end of this video. Yeah. But I think this bracket is a cool way to really look at it because you can kind of, like you said, typically 2, maybe 3 movies come from each one of these pedigrees. So it's kind of nice to see what they all look like, and this way we can maybe go a little bit more in depth about some movies because we're putting them head to head, so we can talk about the pros for one, maybe a con for another, and it helps it advance. But I don't think this is going to be a very chalk bracket. I don't think we're just going to see a bunch of upper seeds win. I think just looking at because like I said before, we wanted to do this video about a month ago at this point, so like some of these seeds may not look as accurate today is because we pulled them around like March 20th. We're recording, like you said, on like the 3rd or the 4th. So like some stuff may have moved down since then. Some stuff may have moved up, but we wanted to keep it like that to, allow for some more Cinderella stories and some more upsets to happen throughout the video.
And I think it's also just representative of like right at the beginning of the season where things were. So let's get into it.
Yeah, let's not waste any more time. And I mean, this year, you go to Awards Expert, you go to our community, the number 1 predicted movie to win Best Picture right now is The Odyssey. So I feel like we should start off with our blockbuster and populist category.
So our first matchup here, the first seed, The Odyssey, our overwhelming front runner here, it's going up against our seed 16, which is Animals. Now, obviously, The Odyssey, you got Christopher Nolan. Boom. You got Universal backing it.
Boom.
We've had trailers for this one for almost a year now.
And everyone seems to really, really like these trailers,
Everyone seems to really like these trailers. And here's the other thing. Christopher Nolan's coming off the back of Oppenheimer, his biggest success at the Oscars, it's not his biggest success financially, right? But it's up there. I mean, it's almost $1 billion movie, and it's a 3-hour-long World War II biopic.
And I mean, he only made the movie for about $100 million too, so that's a giant return on investment. So maybe it didn't hit the highs of maybe like The Dark Knight, but I would say this is probably his most profitable movie to date. Yeah. And I think that's a large reason why we saw it succeed in award season. It's Nolan. We've seen him do this in the past, and I think even if you aren't head over heels about Odyssey winning Best Picture, I mean, really, what can Animals really offer? I mean, Ben Affleck, he hasn't really made an Oscar movie in a while. I've really enjoyed some of these lower scale, low key Ben Affleck movies as of late, but the Academy hasn't really paid them any attention. Even like Air, something that is more Academy friendly than what I assume Animals will be. So for me, I think this is an easy Odyssey moves on.
This is an easy Odyssey moves on. Like you said, Ben Affleck has not been, since Argo, he hasn't been making Oscar movies. And honestly, I feel like most Ben Affleck directed movies would end up in our next category of like auteur / like traditional Oscar bait. But Animals is his Netflix movie. It's like a crime, thriller, action movie. And it sounds like something that is much closer to The Gray Man as like a Netflix. It's built for the algorithm.
I mean, you got a better example. He's already released a Netflix movie this year. Maybe he didn't direct it, but The Rip was a Ben Affleck, Matt Damon led crime heist movie. I haven't seen it yet. I've heard it's good, but we're not talking about it in terms of awards. I do agree Animals maybe has a better shot than like The Rip, but when you're going against Nolan, you're going against the Odyssey. It's a hard place to really overcome.
And honestly, I think we'll talk more about this later on when we get deep in, but I just want to say Odyssey at seed 1, like there's a reason for it, but I just want to discourage people from getting too on board the Odyssey train because like Can Nolan really go from one of the biggest sweeps in recent Oscar history to another one immediately after? Like it's pretty unprecedented. I mean, it came close with Iñárritu with Birdman and The Revenant, but I don't know if I see it happen. And it's like statistically extremely unlikely for it to happen.
Yeah, like Matt said, we'll talk more about the possibility of Nolan doing the unthinkable of going back to back when it has a more, I would say, competitive competition to go against.
Yeah.
But
Animals is a nothing.
I would say let's move down to our next matchup with the 8-9, which I do think for some people could be very competitive because we have Ridley Scott's brand new, The Dog Stars, and then we have Warner Brothers, you could say Spielberg kind of like rip-off interpretation of The End of Oak Street. We haven't had any promo for The Dog Stars yet. Watch by the time this video comes out. CinemaCon is going to be within the next few weeks. I would assume CinemaCon might do something for this movie, but we have a trailer for The End of Oak Street. I feel like I'm in the minority. That trailer didn't really work for me.
I haven't watched it. I'm going to be honest. This has not been an easy week for me, so I haven't gotten around to it. But I will say that Ridley Scott has been all flops lately. All flops. And a like sci-fi sort of like pandemic apocalypse movie is not feeling like it's going to be the movie to get him past that sort of string of movies that don't really go anywhere. It's not reading to me as something that's going to topple his poor track record coming from Gucci and Napoleon and Gladiator 2. And it just seems like every time Ridley has a new movie, people just seem to want to predict him anyways. We saw like a massive Gladiator 2 Best Picture thing happening, which was crazy, and it just that was never happening. And I think that we might see something like that happen with Dog Stars, where people just push for it, but Ridley's just not in that mindset. But The End of Oak Street, coming from David Robert Mitchell, he did It Follows, he did Under the Silver Lake, and yes, it is a big dinosaur blockbuster, but it's coming from a guy who has like historically just made like indies and weird. Under the Silver Lake is a cool, weird movie. All of his stuff has gone to Cannes. It Follows premiered at Cannes. Under the Silver Lake premiered at Cannes.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
I think we could see The End of Oak Street premiere at Cannes too, especially in one of the bigger categories. I wouldn't say competition.
I feel like it could be prime for that out of competition, like like what we saw from like Mission Impossible or even Elvis and Top Gun Maverick, where the blockbusters that play there because the filmmakers are very respected.
Absolutely. And David Robert Mitchell has a lot of love from that crowd. So I'm going to say easily The End of Oak Street for me. Do I see it as a major contender at the end of the day? Probably not. Maybe visual effects, maybe sound. But it's definitely going to be bigger than Ridley flop.
Yeah. I mean, I have been on record of being kind of a fan of some of these recent Ridley movies. Yeah. They know they're a little goofy. They embrace their goofiness. And I would say, unlike something like Napoleon, which has the tech appeal and it could potentially find its way to maybe like an actor or screenplay before anyone saw the movie, or House of Gucci, which feels like bait on paper, Dog Stars doesn't really seem like that, like you're saying, while Oak Street could be like you said, a visual effects, maybe a sound player, or at least sound short list. If we had stunts, maybe could even find its way to the stunt short list if that was a category this year. So I would agree. Oak Street's our first, I guess you could say, upsets, the 8-9 seed. But
stunts is a category this year.
No, it's next year.
It's next year.
For the 100th.
Really?
For the 100th.
Oh, I thought it was this year.
No stunts this year yet.
What? Okay, that ruins everything for me. I'm out. I'm done with predicting.
Well, that's, I think, a fun question, because if we had stunts, I think there's a shot that both of these next movies could maybe make a short list for stunts, depending on how they interpretate stunts. But we have our 5 seed, Michael, which by the time this video is out, reviews will be coming in like a week or so.
Yeah, it's coming soon.
Versus the 12 seed, Avengers Doomsday. People try to make Infinity War. They try to make an Endgame above the line Oscar players. They both got visual effects. I think they both made their sound short list. But we've been Michael heads going back to our video last year where we said if it was releasing, we would put it in our best picture predictions. So now we're kind of put to the test. It's a year later. Do we still hold that, or are we backing out of Michael? Moonwalking, I should say. Moonwalking away from Michael before it officially comes out.
I'm moonwalking away.
Interesting. I'm riding with it. Let's hear your reason for moonwalking away, and is that enough to pick Doomsday here?
Okay, well, it's this April release, and for me, my entire premise on Michael being a huge Oscar hit was based on audience love, based on promotion, based on it being like $1 billion movie, basically. It needs to be bigger than Bohemian Rhapsody because we know the knives are out for it. We know that people are going to hate this movie in critical communities. Like just widely, this might not be as beloved as like some of these other films. I feel like since Bohemian Rhapsody, it's been harder to break through because I think that a lot of critics and a lot of people who are the tastemakers sort of know that they can kill one of these movies before it starts. Now, of course, Michael is still going to be a big audience hit, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, Dylan. I've been seeing little bits and pieces saying that this is not performing through the roof. It's doing well, but it's not aiming for like $150 million first weekend. It's like a $55 million.
Yeah, currently it's about that $50-60 million range. What I will say, Project Hail Mary was expected to make about 30-40 opening weekend, but as the promo started to ramp up, as critics got to see it, I know Michael isn't going to be as critically beloved, but as it had some of those advanced early screenings, the price kept going up and up and up until its eventual $80 million opening. We're recording this, and I think yesterday, Jafar Jackson had the first public appearance for the Michael rollout. It's the most viewed video. I think it was Jimmy Kimmel in like 2 or 3 years in terms of the first 24-hour performance. So clearly the fans are there. I'm here visiting Matt in New York. About a mile down the street, there's a Michael Jackson pop-up at Complex, which I'm going to hit up after we're done here today. So the marketing's kicking up because we're still about 3 weeks away from release, where like to kind of be that guy, I don't think Michael is a pre-sale heavy movie. It's not a superhero. It's not a typical blockbuster.
But Michael Jackson is a superhero to some people.
He is, but I feel like this is very much the type of film that we see those insane walk-ups. Like, I mean, to make a very weird comparison to something like a Minecraft movie from last year, where it was expected to do about half of its opening weekend, but as we hit opening weekend, that core demo starts to show up. They buy the tickets, they pack the screens, and even if this has an opening around 60 to 75 million on the lighter range, I think this would be insanely leggy because you can go to films like Elvis, Bohemian Rhapsody, even A Complete Unknown. I get that it came out at Christmas time, but typically Rocketman, again, these music biopics, when they are well liked by their intended target audience, their legs are very good. The ones that we see the legs are bad are also the Oscar flops. They're the Springsteen. They're the Respects. They're the I Want to Dance with Somebody's. Those are films that are completely rejected from top to bottom. My thing with Michael, and that's why I'm picking it over Doomsday, is even if I think it could miss out on picture at the end of the day, I still see multiple Oscar nominations, or at least shortlist, where if Doomsday, they've been ignoring the superhero movies in the sound category. So it's really visual effects or bust. Yeah. And I don't think it's going to make a PGA lineup where even if Michael isn't our eventual lineup of 10, I could still see this being like a PGA mention where like some people were saying F1 last year was just going to be lone PGA.
Yeah. I feel like until proven wrong, I don't see why this isn't I Want to Dance with Somebody. Mm-hmm. Right? And like, I think it's going to get trashed. I think it's going to get killed critically. And a huge part of Project Hail Mary's word of mouth is the word of mouth, right? It's the positive buzz around it. And I'm not sure we're going to get something like that for Michael. I mean, we're going to get Michael Jackson fans going out, and of course there are a lot of Michael Jackson fans. But if it's looking like 55 million right now, if Michael makes less on its opening weekend than Project Hail Mary, I'm ready to rule it out as the populist king of this year.
I think that's a very fair read.
He might be the king of pop, but he's not the king of populist films, if that's the case.
That's a fair read. So I guess my question comes from, are you that low in it to not push it past
to not
Doomsday?
past Avengers? Dylan, let me be very clear here. If not a single one of last year's Marvel movies could get any nominations, if they couldn't get visual effects, like Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts got very solid, strong reviews and got nothing. We are in an era that is rejecting Marvel movies. Not necessarily, I mean, box office is too right now. But in terms of awards, like you look back to the Avengers Endgame era, we're in a different time of goodwill for this type of film.
You don't even go that far back. You skip the last 2 years, where obviously last year, all three of their movies, I would say, did decent, but didn't really do much for awards. The year before that, it was just Deadpool and Wolverine, which a lot of people, we included, were predicting for it to at least make visual effects because Marvel never misses. So they've missed 2 years in a row. But then you go back before that and you get these random movies like Shang-Chi, like Black Widow. I'm blanking on some other ones that... no one really cares that much about, still finding their way to at least Oscar shortlist, if not Oscar nominations. So I think this could be a rebound year because obviously Avengers are the Avengers, and we have Spider-Man coming back.
And yes, Avengers are the Avengers, but there has never been less enthusiasm for it because this is not the team that people know and love. This is Marvel desperately trying to grab back some of the good favor. So Michael might not be a film that I'm extremely high on. I think it's very high here at a 5th seed, but it's definitely in a battle between a music biopic and a superhero movie. I'm going a music biopic every single time.
And I feel like this conversation, who knows what it looks like after we edit it. I think we just talked for like 10 minutes and it probably could have been like a 30-second conversation.
Yeah. Well, it was more about Michael than it was about Avengers.
It was. And I feel like it will be a fun conversation when we get back around to Michael in round number 2 because it's going to go against the winner of our next matchup. But we have the 4 seed of Disclosure Day going against the 13 seed of Hunger Games Sunrise on the Reaping. And let me just get this out of the way first. I'm not a Disclosure Day head. I don't believe in this movie for anything at the moment outside of score and sound. Those may be nominations, maybe just shortlist. But Hunger Games has 5 movies to its name. It has 0 Oscar nominations. I understand this may look better than the rest of them. This may have more hype, at least since the Jennifer Lawrence movie. But they haven't done anything yet. Why is this year going to be the year they go out for it? Especially as we go through this populist bracket, there's so many heavy hitters here. So kind of by default, I'm pushing Disclosure Day through, but it's one that I think we'll have a fun discussion next round of you might be higher on Disclosure Day while I might be higher on Michael.
I'm very curious why you're not high on Disclosure Day. Name the last time Spielberg made a film that was serious, like dramatic, and didn't get into the Oscar conversation. Because Ready Player One was an action, I'd say, with some elements of comedy, sci-fi. It was largely animated. It was all about pop culture. BFG was like a family movie. Disclosure Day might be a sci-fi movie, but it's still Spielberg doing drama. It's harkening back to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It's harkening back to some of his early films. It's almost like a full circle moment for him talking about aliens. And I know you might not have loved the trailer, but to me, Spielberg doing a serious subject matter is always going to be in the conversation in some way. And so, yeah, it's a no-brainer for me against Hunger Games. Now, I love most of the Hunger Games movies, and I think that this one's going to be excellent. But end of the day, Spielberg is going to win every time.
agree with everything that you just said there. I'll talk more about why I'm not as high on Disclosure Day when we get to our next matchup.
When we get to Michael.
That's going to bring us to our next head-to-head, and this one I feel like is one that we will probably both agree on. We have our 6th seed of Narnia, Greta Gerwig, her big Netflix film coming out later this year. Netflix movie going to theaters, by the way. Against, I would say, I recorded with you in your January predictions, I would have to hold an L here, but since I didn't officially put these out, I don't have to hold any L.
Yeah,
Emerald Fennell, Wuthering Heights. At one point I said, what if this could get 10 knobs? What if? But
hey,
obviously,
I would love that. I would love that. I am a big fan of the Wuthering Heights movie. But it's Greta Gerwig doing Narnia.
I feel that's all you have to say.
Now, with that said, this is based on The Magician's Nephew, which is the prequel book to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It's sort of like the beginning of Narnia. And that, to me, is like I read that book. It's not one of the most memorable stories from the Narnia saga. So I'm going to be interested to see how Greta Gerwig plays it, what she does with it. But just the fact that she has 3 Best Picture nominations, I don't think makes this completely infallible. Like, this one can go down, but I think it's definitely safer than Wuthering Heights.
Yeah, and I think with Narnia too, even if you may be a denier in Narnia for picture, I still feel like Netflix can push it into some tech categories. We've seen year after year, regardless if your Netflix is number 1, number 2, number 3, they can at least get you something for your movie. While Wuthering Heights, maybe at best, is Warner's number 3 at this point, I still think for text, production design, costumes, and maybe makeup and hairstyling, the guilds will eat it up. They'll put it into, because they separate by 3-4 different categories. Oscar shortlist potentially for some of those as well. Cinematography, because they put like 18 movies on your cinematography long list. But in terms of Best Picture chances, Wuthering Heights has been put to bed there, while Narnia still lives to fight another day.
Yeah. But I'd love to see Wuthering Heights get into costumes, get into production design. Song. Yeah, give Charlie something for that. Score. Man, like, there's so many things that I'd love to see Wuthering Heights get some love for, but it's feeling less and less likely. I don't know. I think crafts can still happen.
Yeah,
crafts can still happen.
Like I said, I think the guild will show up for it. It's just, does that carry over to the Oscars as well? I think regardless of what you think about Wuthering Heights as a movie, you have to kind of marvel at its tech appeal and the way it was put
really
together.
Well done.
It's just, is this a year like last year where Warner has a strong 1-2 and they don't really care about anything else? Or is this a year where Warner's like, oh, we have some room to give some love to some other movies? We'll talk about Warner's 1 and 2 here in a little bit, but getting to our next matchup, where I would say a few months ago, this could have been a fun conversation. But here in April, maybe even in March is no longer a fun conversation, because we have the 3 seed of Project Hail Mary. We've seen the box office numbers. We've seen the audience support. We know Amazon can get the job done in certain areas. Maybe they don't shower their movies with nominations, but they get their picture stuff.
They've never had a movie like Project Hail Mary.
That I fully agree with as well. I've seen a lot of stuff, whether it's in our community, whether it's just in award space at large. People are like, oh, Amazon fumbles the bag all the time. But like you said, they've never had a Project Hail Mary.
They've never had a blockbuster.
Yeah, like they have Women Talking, which like, what else could you really get that? Or Nickel Boys, maybe Challengers or Saltburn, maybe you could got something extra for it. But those are films that the Academy just flat out rejected at large. Yeah. They can get their Best Picture nominees in. They usually, more often than not, if they're on the bubble for picture, Challengers and Saltburn aside, those movies get in, they get their necessary nominations, and sometimes they even compete for wins.
Challengers and Saltburn were Gen Z movies.
Yeah.
Project Hail Mary is a movie for everybody, and everybody seems to love it. And it's up against the 14th seed Devil Wears Prada 2, which, granted, the first one did pretty well at the Oscars, getting Meryl Streep a Best Actress nomination, which could possibly be in the cards for this one, too. I wouldn't bank on it, but it's in the cards. But the trailers look like very generic, like a sequel.
That's kind of what I was talking about, where if we didn't have any knowledge on either of these movies' performance so far or trailers, I think this would have been more of a fun conversation. But obviously, Project Hail Mary has hit the absolute peak ceiling of what it could have done, where Devil Wears Prada 2 could be this box office phenomenon, but is it going to be as good or as well regarded, especially in the tech and craft branch outside of costumes?
No.
Probably not.
Absolutely not. And Project Hail Mary, I mean, this is a great example of rumors turning out to be true, because we had been hearing for almost a year at this point. Like, it was like midsummer last year that it was like Project Hail Mary is spectacular. They're talking about should they push it into this awards season because it's like, it's just that good. And then I think at a certain point, people were like, but why are they keeping it in March if it's that good? Why are they keeping it in March if it's that good? And then it came out, and it was that good. And critics loved it, and audiences loved it, and everyone fucking loves this movie. Everyone loves Project Hail Mary. At this point, I said this in our recap video for our last Filmball season, there's only a handful of movies every year, like 3 or 4 movies every year that branch over populist appeal and critical appeal the way that this has. You know, I'm not going to say that this is our Sinners of this year, but it's far closer to Sinners than it is to something like Challengers, as like an example earlier.
Because we have 2 more matchups left in our first round of our populist bracket, and I wouldn't say any of these movies are very hopeful because we have our 7-10 matchup, and I would say this is our first matchup so far where one of the movies isn't at least in the conversation, or besides the 8-9 matchup, that isn't really in the conversation for a Best Picture nomination. And we have our 7th seed of Werewolf. Robert Eggers is back. Christmas release date. Another horror icon being brought to the screen after Nosferatu. Going against number 10 seed, Paul Greengrass, The Uprising. I mean, you said it earlier. People keep trying to make Ridley Scott happen. And he continues to fail. At least Ridley movies get close. Paul Greengrass movies don't get close. And I mean, yes, News of the World happened, but like...
That got close.
It was a COVID year, and it still missed.
It still missed, but it got like 5 nominations.
It did, but I would say when you look at the lineup that year, you pluck it into 2019, you pluck it into 2021, it's maybe getting 1 nomination.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you there. I'm not like a stan for supporting Paul Greengrass, but I do think that we just want to see what Focus does with it, right? I
didn't even realize this is a Focus matchup.
It's a Christmas Day would end up with 4 Oscar nominations.
I said picture and director, but
we both were on Nosferatu, but I think it's because of that same reasoning. Like, if The Lighthouse could be what it was and get where it is, like Robert Eggers has this interesting thing. The Academy overlooks horror all the time. Less now, but they overlook horror all the time because it is lowbrow. Lowbrow. I'm going to air quotes that so you guys know it's not me speaking on that. But Robert Eggers is making period movies. You know, they're horror movies that also, and I would say primarily, are not just about the scares. They are about the tone. They are about the atmosphere. They are about the world. And Werewolf is yet another movie set 200, 300 years in the past. And it's more folklore than anything. And I think that's what pushed Nosferatu above, and that's what got it all those nominations. It got it probably within the realm of Best Picture. And Werewolf could do the same.
I sat here 2 years ago, or I guess not here, up with you in Canada, 2 years ago, and boldly proclaimed, this is Eggers' time. He's getting director, he's getting screenplay, he's getting 4 or 5 techs. He could win multiple techs because they were doing so much cool stuff with the cinematography. They were going to do immaculate work with the techs and crafts, makeup, production design, costumes, score. And I mean, it fulfilled those promises in terms of the techs and crafts. Above the line, they never took it serious. And I said during that prediction episode that they were going to send this to Venice. They were going to make it known this is a real film to take serious. They didn't do that last time. And I don't want to make the same mistake twice. I'm going to have it beat The Uprising here, but in terms of an actual Best Picture nomination, unless Focus goes out of their way to showcase this is their main dog in the race, because that year, you could say it was pretty dumb because that was the year of Conclave. Should have just went with Conclave, but I was like, let's be fun, let's be cool, let's do something different. But this year, Focus's main contender, in my opinion, is not in this bracket. We'll talk about it in our next bracket, but I do think Werewolf can still get by, maybe not with 4 or 5 techs, maybe 2 or 3 makeup, costumes, production, and maybe that's its ceiling this time. But who knows? Maybe since it's not adapting an iconic film and it's just bringing a character that people know to life in a new way, maybe this is a better avenue for higher prospects. But
I was actually going to say the opposite. I think the fact that Nosferatu was based on a silent film, was taken from Dracula, was like, you hear the name Nosferatu, you think of Murnau, you think of Werner Herzog, you think of the legacy of that story, of that character. It's not the same for an original, because Werewolf is just like an original story using the legend of the werewolf. And I think that takes away from it a little bit.
I would agree, ultimately.
Yeah. Ultimately. But yeah, no question about it. It beats The Uprising here. I need to see some real concrete stuff out of The Uprising to believe that it's anything, because Paul Greengrass, this could just be another Lost Bus.
Hey,
which,
Lost Bus
to be
got
fair,
visual effects.
Variety was predicting Lost Bus for like winning Best Picture for like a chunk of last year.
Shout out Variety.
Shout out Variety. Shout out. Anyways, our last matchup in this first round here is our number 2 seed of Dune Part 3 versus our number 15 seed of Resident Evil, the new Zach Cregger film. And I just want to give a shout out here that Zach Cregger, man, like
pumping them out.
Weapons last year, who would have thought Weapons would do what it did?
Yeah, I mean, not me in terms of awards.
Yeah,
I know.
I had it pretty high. I think I had it like number 30 in my early predictions.
Yeah, I was about to say last year early on, you're like, well, there has to be a reason why they're delaying this movie. They're bringing it up months, or was it back months? One of the two.
It was supposed to come out in January, and I looked at it and went, "There's no way that's a January release. There's no way." And then it was true. They ended up pushing it to August, and we've just heard some test screening reports from Resident Evil saying that it's phenomenal, maybe the best video game movie ever made. It's still a video game movie, and
it's a horror video game.
Movie. So I'm gonna say against Dune Part 3, it's a no-brainer loss. But look, if any video game movie was going to break critical threshold, be taken seriously, it's one by Zach Cregger.
I would agree with that. I think it gets the unfortunate matchup of going against Denis Villeneuve's third part of the Dune saga, where maybe if this was going against something like Werewolf or something like End of Oak
Werewolf,
Street,
I might say something different.
And it could go on further. Like Matt said, there was a test screening. Sadly, I don't know anyone on the inside there.
No.
But we have the World of Real report that says
hearsay.
that it was pretty good. But yeah, I don't know. Dune Part 3, even if you're not a Best Picture believer, it's higher up than Resident Evil.
Yeah, but it's not fucking Return of the King. It's not Return of the King. We're going to stamp that down. It's not Return of the King.
Well, before we continue, let me just pop up our bracket here. You've seen what Matt and I have gone with in the first round.
Yeah.
Not much derision from our top seeds. Our only real upset was the End of Oak Street at the 9, taking over Dog Stars, which, to our point earlier, if we had our current day rankings on Awards Expert, I would assume End of Oak Street is probably higher than Dog Stars, especially after the trailer.
Yeah.
But here's a round where we could see some potential upsets. We're going back to the top of the bracket. The Odyssey returns. It's still our number 1 overall seed. It's going against End of Oak Street. End of Oak Street may have Can behind it, may have a buzzy trailer, but the Odyssey checks off everything of what you would want out of a Best Picture nomination. And even if it wasn't made by Christopher Nolan, this is still a film I think would be widely predicted to be a Best Picture nominee. Maybe not a winner, but would still be predicted to be a nominee just because there's a chance it could break Sinner's nomination record this year.
I would be more inclined to have the Odyssey win Best Picture if it was not Christopher Nolan.
We'll talk about the Best Picture wins here in a second.
We'll talk about that later.
That's
but obviously, Odyssey beats End of Oak Street. The Odyssey, I don't believe in it as a Best Picture winner. I do think it wins director. But, I just... Christopher Nolan has a really good track record with getting Oscar nominations lately, if it's not Tenet. And Tenet was just not as serious of a movie as Dunkirk or Oppenheimer, and The Odyssey looks much more in line with Dunkirk and Oppenheimer than it does with Tenet.
Well, let's talk about it. 4-5 matchup, Disclosure Day versus Michael. And I want to address something that you asked me last time, just bringing it back here. A reason why I might be a little bit lower on this movie is we look at this Populist bracket. There's 3 sci-fi movies. Are the Academy going to do 3 sci-fi and Best Picture? I would say no. You can make a case they could do 2. And I would still say Disclosure Day isn't the number 2 in the Best Picture race. And I ultimately just go back to, I know we said in the intro, we're not going to care much about studios or anything like that, but I love looking at stuff at studios. Recently did a live stream. We went studio by studio looking at their slates.
Yeah.
For me, if Universal was treating this as one of their main awards plays, it wouldn't come out a week before The Odyssey. They would throw this out, sorry, not a week. It wouldn't come out a month before The Odyssey.
Yeah.
They would throw this out fall, October, November, maybe even. For my big reservation on Disclosure Day, putting my personal bias aside of the thoughts on the trailer or anything like that, is just, I feel like if Universal wanted to make this their number 1 or a very strong number 2, which we haven't seen them successfully pull off 2 campaigns, I don't even know if ever, because normally their second film is a focus movie.
A focus film.
And we've had times like with the Fablemans where She Said is around too, and She Said they just ultimately dropped. I get She Said was not a very well-regarded movie, but it's still a film that probably should have got more than just an adapted screenplay nomination, especially considering the competition and some of the other categories it was competing for, like lead actress or supporting. But for me, Disclosure Day is just, it's the number 3 sci-fi movie here. We know Project Hail Mary is a hit. We can assume Dune will be a hit too, especially with the tech and craft branches, where Disclosure Day, yes, it's got John Williams. Yes, it probably has visual effects and sound shortlist. But like, do you believe in Josh O'Connor in lead, Emily Blunt supporting? Do you think it's going to find its way into screenplay? What else does it really have there? Maybe cinematography. Spielberg's not getting a director nomination, so it's like 2, 3 techs and picture. At that point, I would just want to put Dune in.
Well, I agree with you because I don't have this being a massive contender. I don't have it top 10 for Best Picture. But, you know, I think Universal's number 2 is more powerful than Lionsgate's number 1.
That's a good point.
Lionsgate has routinely proven that even when they have something, they shit the bed. And if we're looking at the current prognostics for what Michael is about to do, if we're looking at the current trajectory of what Michael's about to do, it is lower than this movie. It is not, I mean, it's probably going to make more money than Disclosure Day. Spielberg has not been doing great at the box office, but he has the respect of his colleagues, even when he has flopped with West Side Story, with The Fablemans, with, what else has he done lately? He's just done a lot of flops lately. But even when he flops, his colleagues still respect him, they love him, and we have a generic music biopic, which likely will get torn apart by critics, versus a throwback to 70s Spielberg by the man himself. To me, neither of these is making Best Picture, but Disclosure Day, I think, has a more clear path to nominations because Michael needs to make so much goddamn money, and it needs to not be complete critical poison, because I think that there's a chance this gets 30s on Metacritic, like Super Mario Galaxy numbers.
I don't think it will go that low. I think there is a built-in audience of fans, especially even on the critical side. We saw something like Elvis, which people detested and said it has no place inside of award season, continue to show that there is a built-in audience, especially in the industry for these types of movies.
That was Baz Luhrmann, though, who is routinely seen as like he is...
That was his first Best Picture nominee since Moulin Rouge.
Yes, but he's always been getting costume, production design, and he's stylish and fun in a way that people grip onto. Antoine Fuqua is
the man.
He's a bit of a bland choice for this, is what I'd say.
I would agree. I may have wanted to see another more stylish Baz type director take on this project, but I think another thing really working in Michael's favor, outside people's admiration for Michael Jackson, as out of the admiration for these musical biopic films that we see routinely overperform based off of what I would say our community as large as awards fans typically projects for them at this point of the season, is if you look at your Best Picture lineup or the films in the Best Picture race, there's not a lot of diversity there. Michael is one of the only diverse films in the race this year. Yeah. And I agree with you. If this gets a 30, 40 Metacritic, if it flops at the box office, I'm not considering anymore. I personally think it's going to do the box office, maybe not to 1 billion, but very high, especially overseas. I think people will eat this movie up. Yeah. I think that it has tech and craft appeal. You can see it in costumes. You can see it in makeup, even if these aren't Best Picture contenders. If it is a Best Picture contender, you bring in like production design, editing, sound.
Costumes.
Then, I would say costumes and makeup are locked nominations, even if this isn't a picture play. Those are two branches that show.
Lock is a bit strong.
Possibly.
Lock is a bit strong.
But these are two branches that show typically you don't need to be a picture mainstay to get the nomination in them if the work is good enough. Even from the short trailers and teasers we've seen, I mean, they make them look like Michael Jackson, and those costumes look like they're fresh off Michael Jackson's back. I think they can run the season
Rocket
there.
Man didn't get a costume design nomination.
That brings up another question of the popularity of the people involved, and I would say the negative after effect energy of Bohemian Rhapsody the year before. Springsteen didn't happen last year. There was no music biopic last year. There's an open slot for it this year, and I just really think that Jafar Jackson, Coleman Domingo, maybe even Nia Long can add some diversity to our acting quartet, and I think that this is a film that if it does around what we need to see it do, I would say like above Elvis numbers domestically, worldwide getting closer to $800 million. I would say like a 205-ish worldwide or international would be numbers I would want to see. I would personally want to see it do higher than that, but I don't think this will be completely trash and torn apart. I think some people will have their knives out, but I think on the complete opposite side too, like we saw with A Complete Unknown, like we saw with Elvis, when there's fans, those fans do show up regardless of their general audiences or if they are critics. And I think that Michael, we haven't heard anything about any screenings yet. I think the press screenings, at least regionally, are the week of release, which maybe doesn't give as much confidence to me. But I think there's been some...
I think they know that it's going to be trashed.
But I think there have been some screenings for bigger critics. So I don't know when their official review embargo is up. I know it's screened in New York this week.
Look, I'll give you this, and this is why I think in this matchup I will let you have this one, and I will go Michael over Disclosure Day. Michael has a bigger ceiling than Disclosure Day does. Michael could be a 10 nomination movie. It could be huge, but I think it has a lower floor than Disclosure Day. Michael could be Forgotten. It could be I Want to Dance with Somebody. It could be Get On Up. It could be Respect. It could be it could be Springsteen. It could be any of these music biopics of beloved, people love Bruce Springsteen. They didn't show up to that movie. People love Whitney Houston. They didn't show up to that movie. People love Aretha Franklin. They didn't show up to that movie. And, we could see that happen here. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It has a low floor and a high ceiling.
Ultimately, just so we can move on, I do agree. I would say the three artists you just mentioned, if you take their worldwide sales, you take their worldwide current streaming numbers, don't match what Michael Jackson has on his own at the moment. But again, we'll move on. We can hate on Michael a little bit when it takes its matchup against the Odyssey here in a few rounds. But moving down our bracket, we have, I think, one of our most interesting matchups of this round. We have Narnia versus Project Hail Mary, a movie that we have seen, we know people do like, has tech and craft appeal, against a film that no one has seen yet, but seems set up to be a pretty big Oscar player. I know last year, you and I were one of the few people in this space, I would say, to be very high on Frankenstein. I had it as my number 3 in picture. I had Guillermo number 2 in director. I think you had it top 5 in picture and top 5 in director as well. So we were high on the movie, and I think Narnia has a great runway to kind of repeat Frankenstein, but in a little bit of a different way. I don't think it's going to be a 1-for-1, but I think it could be seen as the Netflix tech player that powers its way into categories where people are like, oh, does it really need to be where Frankenstein? Does it need to be in cinematography? Does it need to be in sound? Narnia can do the same thing for certain things. And I mean, it's taking the cinematographer of Die My Love, a film that we saw last year that people didn't care about, but the cinematography they did go out for at times. So I could see a chance for both of these movies getting to 7+ nominations. I think these are two films that are, in my personal opinion, that good 5 to 9 range in Best Picture. So I'm kind of cool pushing either one of these movies through. I know you're higher on one, so you conceded for Michael. Yeah. I will concede with you here.
I think both are in Best Picture. I think Narnia is in at the moment, although it's on shakier ground for me because the source material is not very good. Unfortunately. And, it's like we've had multiple Narnia movies in the past, and they are kids' adventure movies, and that's not necessarily what we see get into Best Picture. So, I'm not clamoring at the idea. I'm not clamoring to put a Narnia movie in. It is a Greta Gerwig movie, though.
Mm-hmm. That's the big thing.
An IMAX movie being pushed by Netflix, but it's also not the same level of fantasy adventure as The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. This is The Magician's Nephew. It's sort of like It's not the same type of big fantasy story. I think this could easily just not perform the way that we expect it to. But for now, it is in my top 10. That said, Project Hail Mary, we know is beloved. We know it has audience appeal. We know it has critical appeal. We know that everyone who's supposed to like this movie does like this movie. And it's just simply a film that we have seen. And I think in a matchup between an unknown and something that we know has that promise, we got to go for the thing that we know.
And I feel bad for our next matchup because we're going to get the 2 seed of Dune Part 3 going against the 7 seed of Werewolf. And I feel like with both Dune matchups, there's not much to say because even if Dune, we may be lower than the consensus in terms of its strength and best picture, it's going against what I would say is one of the weaker films of each matchup, at least in that round. And Werewolf...
Well, that's why it's the number 7 seed.
It is. And I mean, Werewolf, if Nosferatu couldn't, like we said, I don't see why this one would make that jump and that hurdle to overcome it. Dune, we saw Dune Part 2 succeed despite coming out in March, having to survive the whole season. Dune Part 3 is coming out on Christmas. It can live a month.
It's also just like I said with Hail Mary. It's the thing that we do know versus the thing that we don't know. You know, we know Robert Eggers' style. We know what he's probably going to do with this, but we don't have like a concrete idea because this is part of a series. We know the first 2 films have been big Oscar successes. Part 2 less than Part 1, shockingly, because I think Part 2 is better in every way. But like we know what Villeneuve's going to do with this one. We know what to expect. We know that the quality level is not going to be too far off of what the first 2 are. So for me, undeniably, Dune Part 3 moves on to the next round. And I think we can probably rush through the final 4 a little bit. Odyssey versus Michael. I mean, it's the Odyssey.
I can't really add much here because even if I am high on Michael in Best Picture, I'm higher on Odyssey. So yeah. I think Odyssey moving on here, which, again, it makes sense.
Again, I was saying before, Michael has a high ceiling and it has a floor that could just be a bottomless pit. The Odyssey has an enormous ceiling and it has a floor that is... like, no matter what, this is getting some nominations.
Our other matchup here in the Elite 8 round of our Populist bracket finds our 2 sci-fi movies that live on. Project Hail Mary, which, as we've said numerous times, we've seen, we know the acclaim, we know the love, and Dune Part 3. We haven't seen, but we have a good idea of what we're probably going to get. The real question comes into is... the Dune movies. Movie 1 won, what was it, like 6 Oscars?
6, yeah.
Got 10 nominations. Movie 2, I think it got
5 nominations, 2 wins.
Yeah, so if that trajectory keeps going, we would say 1 win and like 2, 3 nominations.
I think that's going too far. And I think that people have been like, for years now, people have like, oh, Dune Part 3 is going to win everything on the 3rd one because that's what happened with Lord of the Rings. That is one example. That is one example. You cannot use that to predict a completely different series. Dune is dark. It is dark. This is a movie about a genocide of billions of people. This is a film where Timothée Chalamet becomes like the evil Dark Lord. And it looks awesome. But it's not Lord of the Rings. Stop predicting it to be Lord of the Rings. Not everything is Lord of the Rings. We saw people last year be like, Wicked for Good is going to be Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Nothing is Return of the King. There is nothing that will ever be Return of the King again. That's never going to happen. Whereas, and I think for me, what it comes down to and why I'm picking Project Hail Mary here is hope. You are left at the end of Project Hail Mary feeling hope. You are laughing through that movie. You are smiling through that movie. You are feeling good watching that movie. It is a sci-fi movie that lifts us up. Dune, you're going to leave it feeling probably pretty goddamn miserable. And it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be incredible. But it is not going to make you feel good. And it is, and I think that's why Return of the King ended up winning. It makes you feel good at the end. It makes you cry. It makes you feel you love these characters. Dune is a technical marvel. It will win visual effects. It will win sound. It will not win Best Picture. It will be hopefully nominated, but it's not going to make you feel good. And Project Hail Mary does.
That summed it up great. There's not much I can add. The only thing I can add is to add some spice. We're talking about Dune after all. I think there's a chance that Project Hail Mary takes the sound and visual effects wins away from Dune.
I would be really surprised. I mean, I love Project Hail Mary. I don't think I would give it a visual effects win over any of the winners of the past 5 years at least.
And I think
maybe
this year,
Godzilla.
I think this year we're going to have our first real question in this category if Dune misses picture. Because Avatar is a beast upon itself. There's no movie like Avatar in visual effects. Where, let's say, maybe it was Dune 2, and let's say Dune 2 missed Best Picture for some reason, going against Sinners. I think there's a shot Sinners may have won that nomination.
No goddamn chance. No goddamn chance. That is crazy. I'm not even going to entertain that.
All right, we won't entertain. We'll go to our Populist.
Odyssey versus Project Hail Mary. Okay, let me just... Pros and cons. Odyssey is like guaranteed 8 nominations at the minimum. Minimum 8 nominations.
Maybe closer to 6, because if it misses picture, it goes to that Wakanda Forever range.
But why would it miss picture? Why would it? That would be crazy. That would be so.
Fair. That's fair.
Such a crazy underperformance.
Then yes, I agree. Picture,
and it's going to make all of those techs. But here's the thing. We've never seen Nolan do a film quite like this. His whole thing is that he typically likes to bring a lot of realism into these stories. How's that going to play in a story about gods and monsters? I don't know. I don't know how that's going to play. And so for me, the Odyssey, I think, is like 100% in these categories. Do I know if it's going to win? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. And I would also say that because Oppenheimer just sweeped, the Odyssey, I think it would be like a historic... It would need to be historically brilliant in order to take the wins that Oppenheimer just got. Like, that was Nolan's moment. I don't know if he can have that moment just 2 years afterwards. Project Hail Mary, on the other hand, yes, it has a lot of acclaim. It's not through the roof. It's in the 70s on Metacritic. You know, it has a ton of box office appeal. Odyssey will probably do more. Christopher Nolan is this massive name with a ton of industry respect. Phil Lord and Chris Miller, they're the guys that made 21 Jump Street and the Lego Movie, which is awesome. I'm not saying that to knock them. Those are great movies, but they have not been in the Oscar conversation before. Granted, you know, we've seen a string of people who have not been in the Oscar conversation before winning. We saw Daniels, who made the Farting Corpse movie. We saw Sean Baker, who had never been in before. Usually we see these newcomers to this space be the ones that take the crown. But I just, at this point, I don't see Project Hail Mary as that Best Picture winner. I mean, maybe there's a world for it, but I don't see it.
I think that going back to something that I would have brought up in our Dune Project Hail Mary debate that we didn't really need to is on a preferential ballot, I don't see Project Hail Mary getting many number 1 votes. But I do see it being a consistent middle where not many people are going to put it at the bottom, but I don't think many people are going to put it towards the top. Kind of like Conclave, where I get Conclave had 1 SAG and had 1 BAFTA, but I don't think that's a film that would perform exceptionally well on a pref ballot. While on the other hand, with the Odyssey, I can see some people eating this movie up, putting it at the number 1. It's the tech giants, the Marvel, as well as people really appreciating the way that I'm assuming Nolan is going to do an adaptation of the world's most famous story in his unique Nolan type way. I think if anyone is going to go back to back, it is Christopher Nolan. He is,
especially at this point in his career.
Yeah, he is the biggest name in filmmaking in this era. You can make a case that this era that we're in right now could be to the likes of like Spielberg back in the day.
I was going to say a good comparison is Schindler's List followed up by Saving Private Ryan.
You can make a case that without some behind the scenes magic that maybe still is at play today, but not in that same sense, that Spielberg would have gone back to back and would have gotten the win for Saving Private Ryan. I mean, it did still win director.
5 years difference, though.
It still won director. It still won a bunch of techs. It just lost out to a movie that you can make a case was more Academy friendly. But when we come to this year, and we'll talk about it throughout our other brackets, at least at this point, we don't know what the 1B type movie is.
Yeah.
We know the Odyssey could contend for the 16 nomination record. We know it could get its actors and its screenplay, its director, all of these techs. For me, if I had to put a number 1, I might put the Odyssey just because Nolan has shown.
It's like a default.
It is a default, but I would say it's not a default way of like Killers of the Flower Moon. Killers of the Flower Moon is a movie, I think even the people who put it at number 1 didn't believe it was winning picture. I can see an avenue if he pulls it off, but it's a very thin line where he could
needs to be better than Oppenheimer. Like, it needs to be universally acclaimed as better than Oppenheimer.
I think maybe not better, but I think on par. I think it could get by on par if the competition isn't as strong. But the big thing is the way that Nolan reinvents this story. Because I'm assuming, at least, I still haven't finished reading them. They're not easy books to read, but I've been trying to read the Iliad and the Odyssey.
Oh, goddamn, dude!
I'm assuming he is going to mix some Iliad in here as well. So it's combining both.
Yeah, I mean the Trojan horse is in there.
It's going to be non-linear in the typical Nolan type way, and I think that there is a chance said, this can be seen as the definitive version of this, where everyone's like, oh, imagine the day when there's the definitive Bible movie. And I think this can kind of be pulled off what the people talk about with that, with the Odyssey. When you go to your history classes, this is the movie that your teacher shows you.
Yeah.
Makes $1 billion or $900 million. Everyone, like what we're talking about Project Hail Mary, at least really likes it, if not loves it.
This is the type of movie that like 50 years ago, this would sweep every category. This has been her.
I mean, it could this year.
It could, but look, I don't know. I think that it's going to be the movie that people respect, but it doesn't have the passion. You know, I think it's going to be the movie that people look at and they're like, wow, that was incredible. But I love insert other movie here. We don't know what that other movie is yet. Maybe it'll turn up in one of our other categories here. But to me, right now, The Odyssey is just like the safest bet for as many nominations as it can possibly get.
Well, as we finish up this populist side of the bracket, let's just take a look at it. As you can see here, here's what Matt and I decided to push forward as our winners. Obviously, see The Odyssey, the #1 overall seed, is moving its way into our final four. One thing with this populist bracket before we move into our next one is clearly this is a bracket we can talk the most about because these are all big movies, even down to
we know a lot about all of them.
Our 16 seed. We've seen images. We know a lot of plot details. As we move into some of these other brackets, and I'm assuming we're maybe close to the hour mark on this video,
we'll have less.
We'll be able to zoom through these a little bit more. But
also it's fun to talk more about them because like...
Exactly. And I mean, it's YouTube. You can pause and come back later. If you made this far in the video, though, self-promo plug. Shout out to you. A like helps our channel continue to grow. A subscription. Matt is going to Cannes. You want to see his on-the-ground festival coverage coming up here soon.
Oh, it's going to be
fun.
That's
a perfect segue into our next bracket. Let's talk about these art house, these international contenders, because like I said,
I'm locking
Matt is going to see a good handful of these in like a month.
I'm locking the fuck in for this category because these are films that, like you said, you know, a lot of people know a ton about the blockbusters. They don't know as much about these movies. And so here's my time to sort of make a case for each of these art house films, these international films, because we're starting to get more and more information about them as we go forward. So let's start with this first matchup here. This is Christian Mungiu's film Fjord, which is coming from Neon. It's a Romanian-Norwegian film starring Renata Reinsve as well as Sebastian Stan. And it's going up against our number 16 seed of Butterfly Jam, which is from Kantemir Balagov. He is a young Russian filmmaker, but he's making this film in America. It's shot by Jomo Frey, who was
Nickel
cinematographer
Boys.
of the Nickel Boys. I think Barry Keoghan is in it. It's about like a circus family, I believe. It sounds really cool. And Kantemir Balagov announced that he was retiring because he was just disillusioned with the film industry. This film brought him back. But that said, it has no distributor. Fjord has Neon behind it. It is essentially confirmed to be going to the Cannes Film Festival in competition. We have some inside intel. We know someone who has seen the film because it's going to Cannes, and they work for a company who represents the film. So we've heard intel that this film is really fucking good. It's really, really good, and it's more accessible than some of Christian Mungiu's other films. Now, Christian Mungiu, he is a Palme d'Or winner. He won for 4 months, 3 weeks, 2 days. His films are bleak as hell. And that is the biggest thing against Fjord right now. This is not going to be a feel-good movie. This is a film about xenophobia. It's about a Romanian movie. It's about a Romanian family moving to a town in Norway and facing a lot of prejudice when they get there. But that said, it's going to be powerful. It's going to be critically beloved. And, I mean, I know last year we had this conversation. Is Neon's big contender the film that they already have or the film that they buy out of Cannes? Last year it was both. And this year I think that there's an argument that it could be both again. Or it's just multiple movies that they already have because Neon's lineup is already stacked.
Yeah, that point is what I was going to bring to this conversation is, I mean, even if you think this film may end up being too dark, if Neon's other film they're bringing in is a little bit stronger, more palatable, they're coming with this. Unless you think this movie is going to be off the rails, weird, akin to something maybe like Alpha, or maybe just a film that's just so inaccessible, like Alicia Rohrwacher's, I'm blanking on the name.
La Chimera.
La Chimera a few years ago. You got to push this one forward and maybe even really far into this bracket because it has everything you would want to see. Again, we don't talk sports here, but to make a sports analogy, this is your Duke. You're coming into the bracket, you know Duke has the sauce. They're here every year. They come in with all these 5-star talents behind the movie. Neon's here. You have the cast, like you said, you have a filmmaker who's already won a Palme d'Or. It's good enough to make it down at least to the round of 32.
Absolutely. And yeah, Fjord, I mean, what we need to see with this one is undeniable critic success, because what we've seen coming out of Cannes in the past few years is it does not matter if your film is really dark, really inaccessible. If you have the critical praise, you're going to go far. It was just an accident. I never would have thought that Jafar Panahi would make it as far as he did in the Oscar race. The Secret Agent, I mean, I definitely thought Cleber Mendonça Filho has the sauce to get into Best Picture. But when I saw The Secret Agent, I was like, I'm not sure about it happening with that film. You know, give me something more like Bacurau, and he makes it in. But he did it with The Secret Agent. You know, and that was a very difficult, inaccessible film. So to me, Fjord just looks like something that is going to happen because hopefully it's going to be really critically acclaimed. It touches on some hot button topics, and it's going to be beautifully done.
Sometimes on this channel I get called a normie, but I don't know much about some of these smaller art house international films. And our 8-9 matchup is 2 films I don't know much about. So Matt, enlighten us about A Long Winter versus Sheep in the Box.
Let me sell you on these. So number 8 here, the 8th seed is A Long Winter. This is Andrew Haig's new film. I mean, arguably you could put this in the indie category. I put it here because I think Andrew Haig, especially with All of Us Strangers, he falls more into the art house category. And I think that's the type of people that really supported All of Us Strangers, that really loved that movie, and Andrew Haig's other films in the past. Now, A Long Winter is based on a short story. It's about a family and the sort of aftermath of the mother of this family just wandering out into the winter and disappearing. I think Fred Heschinger is in it. To be honest, it doesn't sound, there's not as much of a draw as I had with All of Us Strangers, right? That was a Searchlight movie, and it was like based on this cool Japanese story about ghosts and everything. Interesting, very interesting premise. This one, the premise doesn't grab me quite as much, and Mubi is repping it. I need to see this show up at Cannes in order to really take it seriously. The big thing that we saw against All of Us Strangers a few years ago was the fact that it was a Telluride premiere that was pushed to the very end of the year, that, you know, there was already critical passion for other films, and it just couldn't break through. Number 9, on the other hand, is Sheep in the Box. Now, Sheep in the Box is the new film from Hirokazu Koreeda. He did Shoplifters, if you saw that one, won the Palme d'Or. He's done, he did Monster a few years ago. He did Broker. He is essentially the king of Japanese hopecore. I keep using that word, but his movies are lovely. And they are warm, and they are kind, and they have this level of niceness to them. And Neon is distributing this one. I mean, we look back to Monster, and that one didn't really end up performing as well because it was Janus Films repping it, I believe, at the time, and it just didn't take off in the way that it could have. Maybe I'm wrong about it being Janus Films because it's not on Criterion, but someone had it that it just wasn't a huge success. But Sheep in the Box, Neon bought it early. It is a sci-fi movie about a couple that adopts a robot son. That sounds like it could be emotional. It could be sweet. The trailer for the movie's out. It looks really, really nice. It's not a Neon trailer, but it is a trailer. And I don't know. To me, if I'm thinking Hirokazu Koreeda is a filmmaker that I think is on, like, he could be one of those breakouts that we get, like Joachim Trier last year or Jonathan Glazer. He's a filmmaker that has been making films that have not gotten their due in the American award space. And if this comes close to the acclaim that Shoplifters got, I mean, you go back right now, if Shoplifters wins the Palme, it gets nominated for Best Picture. So that's just what it comes down to. For me, Sheep in the Box advances over A Long Winter. It sounds like one of the best Hirokazu Koreeda films versus like an Andrew Haig film I'm not convinced by.
And I will back off of what you just said there with Sheep in the Box. I would say my bigger thing is it was more damning for A Long Winter, comparing it to All of Us Strangers, his last film. I think a large reason why that film didn't take off into everything that you said, it was Searchlight's number 2. Yeah. Maybe even their number 3 against a film that had much stronger buzz, Poor Things. And I mean, Mubi this year has another film that we'll talk about here in a little bit that
Mubi has a lot.
I think is very underrated in this bracket here. I don't know where its awards expert ranking would be now, but in this bracket, it's at a 4 seed, but we'll talk about that here in a few.
We'll talk about that very soon. Okay, next bracket, we've got number 5, Parallel Tales versus number 12, The Unknown. Now, Parallel Tales, this is Asghar Farhadi. He made A Separation. He made A Hero, which back in 2021 was widely predicted as the foreign language contender. Like before Cannes, like I saw people predicting that to win Best Picture. Farhadi has won 2 Oscars at this point. He won Best International Film for both A Separation and for The Salesman. And I think if it's now, A Separation gets Best Picture. Maybe even wins. But Parallel Tales is not an Iranian film. It's set in France, and it is like a Magnolia-style mosaic story taking place on the day of a bunch of terrorist attacks in Paris. And to me, I don't know, that's ringing a bit... I don't think anything should be off limits in art, but I don't know about that whole idea personally.
It's one where I think if he pulls it off well, it'll be super dynamic and a very riveting type watch, but it also has a chance to, as we're seeing here with the drama here in opening weekend, as we saw with Eddington last year, you talk about topics that people may not be open to talking about, they're going to have their knives even sharper and ready to kind of push it away.
It's up against our number 12, The Unknown, a film which the plot details are still unknown. This is directed by Arthur Harari, who is the co-writer of Anatomy of a Fall, married to Justine Triet, and you would think this would be one of the big films. Neon has been on board this film for like 2 years now, but there's not been good reports out of this. There's been some tests that we've heard of. Like with Fjord, we've heard some inside intel from the French film industry. And apparently even Arthur Harari is not as pleased with this movie. And it's poised to not even make it into competition at Cannes.
I mean, everybody loves Léa Seydoux, but I feel like she yearly has a film that goes to Cannes that people kind of are like this, where they're like, she's good. Movie isn't.
Yeah. No, this feels to me like last year's A Private Life with Jodie Foster, where it's going to show up out of competition at Cannes, it's going to get mediocre reviews, and then it's going to come out in the fall, and we all will have forgotten completely about it. So to me, even though I'm not big on Parallel Tales, it's easily going to move on for me.
That's now going to bring us to the film that we were kind of hinting about earlier, our 4 seed, 1949 or Fatherland. Depends on what the official title might be for that.
We'll know the official title when the Cannes lineup drops, because despite early reports saying that this film, directed by Pavel Pawlikowski, was not ready for Cannes, it is ready, and it will be in the lineup. Mubi is releasing this, and it is, despite being a Polish production from a Polish filmmaker, Pavel Pawlikowski won Best International Film for Ida, and he was nominated for Best Director for Cold War. And again, I think in a modern era, would have been nominated for Best Picture too. Early on, I was more hesitant on this movie because I had heard rumors that this was being pushed for next year instead. But reports are saying it is coming to Cannes. Mubi has it. Agnieszka Holland, one of the great Polish filmmakers, recently did an interview where she said she'd seen the final cut, and it's among her 3 favorite movies of all time. Despite being a Polish filmmaker, Pawlikowski, he did Ida, which he won Best International Feature for, and he got a Best Director nomination for Cold War. He is returning with this film. Also, I will say Cold War, modern era, would have been nominated for Best Picture. Definitely would have. And this is, despite being a Polish production, it is a German language film about a father and daughter. Thomas Mann, famous novelist, and his daughter, played by Sandra Hüller. It's a road trip movie across Germany shortly after the end of the Second World War. It is a big historical drama that is also intimate. It is going to be two actors at their absolute best. This, to me, sounds like a major contender in every single way. I could see this be the Palme d'Or winner. Pawlikowski does not have a Palme at this point. And I could see this be Mubi's next big breakout after The Substance. I mean, The Substance kind of rocketed them into Best Picture in a way that no one expected, but they have been trying to position themselves as the neon competitor, and I think that this could be huge for them. Versus our number 13 seed, The Beloved. This is a Spanish film starring Javier Bardem. It's directed by Rodrigo Sorogoyen, and it basically sounds like this year's Sentimental Value, not in terms of success, but in terms of it being a father-daughter story about an actress and her father, who is like an absentee dad, Javier Bardem, and he's also a filmmaker, and he casts her in his movie. So that's not going to do well after Sentimental Value did so well last year, in my opinion. To me, 1949, Fatherland moves on easy.
Yeah, I think 1949, the sky is the limit for this movie. I do agree with you. Even before it was heavily almost confirmed to come out this year, this has been my international feature winner. I think everything that you said there can work across the scale, not just above the line for both actors, not just director, not just and adapted screenplay, but it has tech appeal as well. If we're going back to World War II times, there's a chance for maybe some production design, some costume cinematography as well, because
Cold War and Ida both got cinematography nominations.
And they were shot in black and white as well. So, I mean, that's something that this branch does eat up. I just feel like this can run the gauntlet. The real question is kind of what you mentioned there. Mubi, how real are they? Substance, I think, is a film that very heavily got as far as it did, more so than the campaigning of the studio, but due to the reactions online as well as the actor, I would say actors, but Demi Moore largely just propelling this film, making it a real thing for the Academy. I do believe in Mubi. That's part of the reason why I'm having it go on here, and I'm going to have it go really far inside of this bracket, but I do think this will be their true test. A few years ago where we had to say, like, oh, how real is A24 going forward? How real is Neon going forward? I think this is the film to really make them show, like, hey, Mubi is something to take serious when they have a real contender on their slate.
Not just this film. There's other movie films that are out there that we're going to talk about in this category. But one thing I will say, little inside baseball that I've heard rumors of, the reason why Neon went as hard as they did last year is they're terrified of Mubi.
Oh,
they are terrified.
We love competition.
Mubi is going to take their spot. And so last year, they outbid Mubi on basically everything. Mubi ended up with Die My Love. That was nothing. This year, I think Mubi knows that Neon is going to do that at the festival, and so they are trying to buy things before the festival. And that's why we're seeing a lot of acquisitions right now between Neon and Mubi. They are battling for Cannes dominance. They are battling for the Palme d'Or. And I think this year, it's very likely that Neon loses for the first time in a while, because they're not going to have as much stuff to buy at the festival. Keep in mind, it was just an accident they bought during the festival last year, as well as The Secret Agent, as well as Sirat. They came in with Sentimental Value, and they came in with Alpha. And so, yeah, I think this year is going to be the true test of, is Neon lucky, or are they just really good at buying things during the festival? Because this year, Mubi is going to make it hard for them. But 1949 advances. Now let's move on to the next matchup, the number 6 versus the number 11. This is our Korean matchup here. We've got Lee Chang-dong's film, Possible Love, coming from Netflix. Lee Chang-dong did the film Burning, which was like one of the most critically acclaimed films of the last 10 years. This is his follow-up 8 years later, coming up with another one. And Netflix is behind this, which is going to help get it a lot of visibility, but it also means can't go to Cannes. So this is a Venice Film Festival film at best. And what we saw last year with No Other Choice, if you're an international film premiering at Venice, the runway has already been run by all of these other movies. It is really, really, really hard to get momentum as an international film out of the Venice Film Festival. I'm Still Here did it, but I would argue that was a very special scenario involving Fernando Torres and the Golden Globes. Hope, on the other hand, number 11, this is a genre film. It's an alien film starring Michael Fassbender and Alicia Vikander and directed by Na Hong Jin. He did a horror movie called The Wailing back in 2016. I haven't seen it, heard it's pretty cool, but it's an alien invasion movie. It's going to be like a midnight fun film. Might play in competition at Cannes, and if so, I would watch out for it. But to me, between these two, I'm going with a Netflix movie that is from one of the most acclaimed filmmakers of like the last 25 years.
Yeah, and I do agree. The fact that it is ineligible to be able to go to Cannes is a major detriment. But I would say that any studio can overcome that. It's Netflix. Netflix has shown outside of last year, they are a mainstay in the international feature category. And they go through it with different avenues because technically they can't go to Cannes unless they circumvent the rules, like with like May December and like Amelia Perez sort of thing. But like,
they bought those films after Cannes.
Yeah,
so.
and some people may say they had them ahead of time, but
not Amelia Perez, but I think May December they very likely did.
Possible of it can't go to Cannes, but I think unlike No Other Choice, it's not going to be the studio's fourth or fifth priority in the international feature category. Most likely, this will be Netflix's number one or number two.
In Best Picture, it could be up there for them, too.
It could be,
depending on, we don't know how their other films are going to shake out. I mean, last year, who would have thought Train Dreams would end up being their big player?
Yeah, it's still crazy to think about due to the fact of how Jay Kelly kind of crashed and burned. House of Dynamite came out with a 97 at Venice and then went nowhere after
Frankenstein did great, and Train Dreams did great. And I think that there's a possible avenue that this is one of the most acclaimed films of the year, and then Netflix just pulls it out and they really lean into the modern love of Korean media, and they could make something really special of this. But that said, I wish it had a Cannes premiere because Lee Chang-dong, that's his territory. He could win the Palme.
So with Possible Love moving on, it's going to go against the winner of our next matchup. You talk about critically acclaimed. I mean, Ryusuke Hamaguchi had that in droves with Drive My Car. He's back again this time, most likely going to be in competition with All of a Sudden. It's our 3 seed here. I think now if we update the bracket a little bit, it would probably be the number 2 fighting for the number 1 seed on Awards Expert.
It's been bought by Neon. I mean, Hamaguchi's last film, Hamaguchi's last 2 films were both Janus films. Now Neon has him, and they are likely going to want to push him hard because Drive My Car did so well. And also, this film is not just Japanese. It is a mixture of Japan and France. It's set in Paris in a hospital and is about a connection between a writer and a nurse in a hospital, talking about death and terminal illness. It's going to be a heartbreaker, I think. It's going to be powerful, and have heard tell. It's pretty damn good. And the trailer looks fantastic, too. So that is a really, really strong contender. But it's going up against our number 14, which I think is way too low for what it is. This is a Russian film called Minotaur from Andrei Zvyagintsev. And he has, for his last 2 movies, I think, been nominated for Best International Feature both times. Leviathan, Loveless, both incredibly highly acclaimed, both from Sony Pictures Classics, though. This movie just bought it, and Zvyagintsev, he's been cooking up this film for a very, very long time. It's also likely to be at Cannes. I'm incredibly curious to see what this does at Cannes. I think I'm going to have to lean All of a Sudden for now just because it has, I mean, Ryusuke Hamaguchi is like riding on a high note, and adding in some French influences into it could be really big. Plus, there might be hesitance to award a Russian film despite the fact that Zvyagintsev is basically persona non grata in the Russian system. Still going All of a Sudden, but I think Minotaur is a dark horse.
I think if Minotaur was facing any of the films in our next 2 matchups, I would probably push it through to the next round. It's just going against what I would say is either what should be the number 1 or number 2 overall seed. So it kind of had that bad luck of the draw. But moving to our next matchup, we have our 7 versus 10. We have Look Back versus Bitter Christmas. And I guess, where are your initial thoughts here?
Okay, well, Look Back is our second film by Hirokazu Koreeda. We were talking about him with Sheep in a Box. We were talking about him. He did Shoplifters. He did Monster. He did Broker. Look Back is an adaptation of a very well-known and acclaimed manga, which was adapted to an excellent animated film just a few years ago. And so this is the live action of an anime, basically, which doesn't sound promising, but it's a beautiful story. It's a real heart wrencher, and like, there's something to be said for the fact that we know what this is. Like, we know the source material, we know that it's been critically successful, and it's from a filmmaker like Koreeda. In that way, it might even be a safer bet than Sheep in the Box. But that said, this is coming from G Kids. They're releasing it. It could be more of like a commercial play, while Sheep in the Box is more of a critical play. But Look Back sounds like it's going to be very good. It is up against Pedro Almodovar's new film, which is Bitter Christmas, starring Barbara Lenny. It's Sony Pictures Classics. It's like the typical Almodovar film. But look, if The Room Next Door could win the Golden Lion and not get him into Oscars, I don't know what I'd have on this one. I would need to see this get huge reviews. Like, it's not even like, Parallel Mothers had Penelope Cruz, who is beloved. Pain and Glory had Antonio Banderas. Bitter Christmas doesn't have that pedigree. I'm going to just think that it might be a little bit of a lower Almodovar. So I might lean Look Back here. But I could see an angle for either.
Yeah, for me, I don't feel entirely confident about either of these movies. I would just say, based off of the fact that he has another movie that sounds more Academy friendly, most of the campaigning, if one would go to one of his movies, would be with Sheep in the Box. While this is Almodovar's only real film in the conversation this year, we've heard stuff from its Spanish release that it's pretty good. I don't think it's going to be an awards player. Maybe international, like fifth slot at like CC, or sixth slot at like CCA or something, Golden Globes. But I don't think it's a real Oscar contender, especially above the line. So I kind of default to you. Whatever one you want to go with here, I'll rock with. I lean Bitter Christmas, but I could go either way.
I think I might go Bitter Christmas just because Look Back, we've got another Koreeda film, and this one's not likely to be in Cannes competition. It could show up at Cannes. It's not going to be in competition.
That's going to bring us to, I think, the most interesting matchup in our entire 64-team bracket. We have two films that probably aren't coming out this year.
Yeah, neither of them are coming out. Entertainment System is down. Ruben Östlund. It's confirmed not for Cannes. He could have it ready for Venice.
Does he want to go to Venice?
Look, last year, we said the same thing last year about No Other Choice. Is Park Chan-wook going to want to go to Venice? And then he did. But Östlund, he's a Cannes guy. He wants another Palm. He's going to wait for Cannes. But if he were to go to Venice, I don't think the film would do as well there.
It's one of those things, I think it really depends on the competition. It depends on who's the chair. I think there's a chance that maybe Entertainment System Ready is down, or Entertainment System is down, whatever it's called, is ready this year. But he doesn't want to go because maybe Park isn't the guy to give him his 3-peat.
Maybe. This film's taking so goddamn long to make.
I think it's going to be one of those things where when it eventually comes out, it's going to be like impossible to live up to the hype, where he keeps delaying to the point where like it's just to get more and more anticipated. And when it eventually comes out, people are like, it's good, but like...
But you could have said the same thing about Triangle of Sadness coming out after his Palm for The Square, right?
Yeah, but maybe I'm misremembering. I don't remember Triangle being in the conversation to be ready for Cannes 3 years in a row. Where this has been
crazy.
Going back even to last year, people are like, oh, what if this is at Cannes this year?
How long can it take to shoot a film set in an airplane? How long can it take? And this is up against number 15, which is Coward. This is Lucas Daunt's new film. It's not ready for Cannes. It could be ready for Venice, though. But he's the Belgian filmmaker. He did Close. But again, if this doesn't show up at Cannes, I don't think it's anything.
That's kind of how I feel as well. For me, it goes back to your point earlier. Östlund is a Cannes guy. I feel like he will wait, while Lucas I feel like could go somewhere else, but I don't believe in as a contender. So again, I'm kind of leaning up to you. Where do you want to go here? I think it would be funny to push the 15 seed through, because Östlund, I feel more confident isn't this year. Well, even if I don't believe in Coward for anything, I think could still be this year.
Let's do it. Let's do Coward. I think that's fun.
Östlund's out round one.
Out.
Major upset.
I think that was my best picture pick in my January video. So.
Well, hey, how the tides turn. That's what makes it fun of doing your video in January is you can pick somebody for Best Picture and it doesn't come out. But, I mean, go back to last year. People were predicting After the Hunt to win Best Picture in August.
That's crazy. That's Fucking crazy. All right, let's get to this next round. We got number 1, Fjord, versus number 9, Sheep in the Box. I think we got to go Fjord here. I mean, this is Neon. We know it's going to Cannes. We know that this is good. Sheep in the Box could be a lower tier Koreeda. It could be spectacular. But, you've got these two Neons up against each other, and so far we've heard more about Fjord. That feels more promising for a Palm.
And it's one of those things, I think I said this in the last round as well, even if you think this movie may be weird, it may off-put some people, I think it has enough to show that this is Neon's priority, and their priority, regardless if it pans out or not, gets a stronger push down the line. So maybe this doesn't win the Palm. Maybe they end up buying something else that becomes their new number 1. But at least everything they have on their plate right now, this seems to be what Neon wants to happen. It's just, will it happen?
Yeah, it's just a question of do we fully understand their priorities at this point? And also, what's left to buy? There's not a lot that seems like it's left open right now. Our next matchup, number 5, Parallel Tales versus number 4, Fatherland/1949. And look, my thoughts on Parallel Tales. I think it sounds saccharine. I think it sounds like one of Farhadi's weakest films. Whereas 1949, I think that, Pavel Pavlikovsky, he's unofficially known as the 4th member of the Three Amigos, being Alfonso Cuarón, Alejandro González Iñárritu, and Guillermo del Toro. Those 3 have all won Best Director. Pavel Pavlikovsky, maybe he could join them. So I'm going to go 1949. He is beloved in Hollywood, and I think that this could be his time.
I'm a little higher on Parallel Tales than I think you are, but going against 1949 Fatherland is just a bad matchup. Like I said, this, in my opinion, should be the number 1 seed. I understand why on the awards expert community rankings it's down a little bit with whether it's this year or not.
It was for a while.
But even now, still, it would be like the 3 or the 4. It still wouldn't be the number 1 overall. I think on paper, hesitation of movie aside, this makes the most sense in terms of the international play this year. But that's why we're doing this bracket. Maybe it goes against something that we can make a better case for it.
So next matchup, number 6, Possible Love, coming from Netflix, versus number 3, All of a Sudden, coming from Neon. And at this point, I'm really torn here because Possible Love, I think, has a huge upside coming from Netflix and being that studio's only international priority, but it also means it's not going to Cannes. It won't have that launch pad. All of a Sudden, being Neon, it could be their number 2, number 3 priority. It could also be their number 1. We don't know yet. I don't know which way I'm going to lean here. Honestly, I wish that this was a matchup in the next round instead of right here.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing with this bracket. I think all the other brackets, there's more parity down the line, but I feel like here we have multiple quarterfinal matchups in this specific bracket where we have some heavy hitters going against each other that I feel like are kind of undervalued in their overall rankings. I would lean towards All of a Sudden just because we know Hamaguchi has had success in the past. He's doing something different here. Right. Neon is positioning it to be a very strong film, and obviously Possible Love can't go to Cannes, but I think that Possible Love might be a safer international feature nomination, but I feel like All of a Sudden is the stronger Best Picture play, if that makes sense.
I'm really torn here. I think I might lean Possible Love right now, but I'm going to go All of a Sudden.
I feel like when we hit these instances where neither of us feel very strong about a movie, I guess we go with the higher seed, with the community. In fact, we won't follow this community ranking. We'll follow our Filmball server community ranking, which all of a sudden they currently have in their Best Picture lineup. So I feel like we'll push it through one more round.
We'll push it through.
I think we'll go through another round because
I think it will too.
Takes the winner of Bitter Christmas and Coward. 2 movies we just went on and on about not believing in.
Yeah, well, Coward's not coming out this year, so we go Bitter Christmas, but it's a weak winner here.
Yeah, crazy. The 10 seed is in the
Final 4.
Sweet 16
Sweet
of this
16.
bracket, having played no real competition. But it will get a matchup this time. But before that, we have the 1 seed versus the 4 seed.
Yeah, Fjord versus 1949. Look, I think that both of these get a Best Picture nomination. I think that if we have 2 international contenders, these are the 2. I think we could get more international contenders this year than that. We came very close last year to 3. I would say the year before we did have 3 because I would consider The Substance not an American film. That was a French film. I really think that this year, Fjord, 1949, maybe All of a Sudden, maybe Possible Love. I could see all 4 make it in.
And that's the thing with this year is they're not all coming from Neon. They're coming from a multitude of studios. So it's not like Neon has to be like, oh, what's my priority, my number 1, sentiment value? And what's my 2?
We know that they can do 2.
And then what's my 3? Accent. This time it's like, well, Neon can focus on 2 potentially here.
Yeah.
Mubi has 1. Netflix has 1. And who knows? Another movie could come out at Cannes, set the festival on fire, and either Netflix, Mubi, maybe even A24 buys it. And then boom, we have another contender here in the international art house type race.
But look, between these 2 films that I think are major contenders, only one of them do I think could contend for wins. I think Sandra Hüller could win Best Actress. I think Pavel Pawlikowski could win Screenplay and Director. I think this could be a cinematography winner. I think that this could be massive. So I'm going Fatherland. Fjord, I think, is a big nomination contender, but not a big win contender.
I would agree. I think between everything that we talked about with these movies over the past 2 rounds, 1949 Fatherland is Academy bait in a sense. Yes, it may be an international movie, but its premise, its actors, its production as a whole is what the Academy typically likes.
This is Oscar bait, but we always say elevated Oscar bait, right? This is elevated Oscar bait. You get a filmmaker like Pavel Pawlikowski doing a World War II movie about a famous novelist.
The other film is just one that we've heard so much about his past of being repulsive or not being for everyone, and I get this film maybe from the word on the street is less of that, but it's going against something that makes so much sense on paper. So I agree, Fatherland would move on to our Elite 8 matchup.
Absolutely. Now we've got another no-brainer here. Number 3, All of a Sudden, Hamaguchi versus number 10, Almodovar, Bitter Christmas. Look, it's got to be All of a Sudden. Bitter Christmas faces its first competition here. And even though All of a Sudden, I do think is Neon's 3 or 4 priority, if, I would say, I don't know. Maybe I'm overblowing it there. I think this is actually Neon's number 2. I think it could get into Best Picture with it. But again, I think a lot of people overpredicted Evil Does Not Exist. We could overpredict all of a Sudden as well.
I think All of a Sudden, if it is a picture player, then you can see all of the other nominations come. But I think if it's not a picture player, then it's blanking like Evil Does Not Exist. I don't think this is something that needs to have that international slot, needs to get just an additional screenplay nom like it was just an accident last year. It's either the whole package or it's one of those things that we all come into Cannes thinking is a real thing. It may be a really good movie. It just doesn't pan out due to what the slate has as well as just the season at large. Because as we're looking at this, the art house international films look pretty stacked.
This is pretty good. This is a pretty good lineup. Like, I was worried I wouldn't find 16 here, but there's 16.
Yeah.
I would actually say I think that it was just an accident where it's huge at Cannes, it gets all the critical acclaim, and then it's just not prioritized, and it still ends up with a screenplay nomination, but it misses for the most part.
Well, that's going to bring us to our Elite 8 matchup. The winner here will go to our Final 4. And I feel like you kind of know what we're going with here because there's one film that we have both been boosting throughout. Maybe we're too high on it, but it's rare that we're both in unison with the Art House International contender early. Yeah. So I like this. I like that we're agreeing.
I think this could be our Best Picture winner, honestly.
Interesting. I'm not there yet, but that's where our disagree comes from. But I do think it will end up, if it goes the way that we're both thinking, I do think we'll end up top 3, top 4, like Sentimental Value last year. Directors and multiple actors, screenplay, text, maybe not galore, but at least 2 or 3 of them.
Hear me out, though. This has everything that it needs. It's going to be critically acclaimed. It's going to have amazing acting from people. Like Sandra Hüller has broken through to, this year she's
4 movies.
She's 4 movies. Like, people are saying that she could get a nomination for Project Hail Mary. People are saying she could get a nomination for Digger. She just won the Berlin Best Actress prize for Rose, and she's got Fatherland. She is broken through in a big way, not just in international films, in Hollywood films too. She could be easily a Best Actress winner. That's going to get this film a lot of attention. It's going to appeal to the art crowd. It's going to appeal as well to the more typical biopic crowd. This is going to play so many different audiences, and with that tech potential as well, I think this could be the film that takes down the Odyssey.
Well, we'll have to see. I don't think they're going against each other in the Final Four, but there's a chance that could be our championship matchup. So now that we're halfway through the bracket, there's two films I feel like people are super, super, super hyping up this award season, and they're going to be in our tour bracket. We haven't had a chance to really talk about these films yet, so why don't we hop over there? You see our 1/16 seed. I think it's a very fitting matchup because these are two filmmakers that fell off a cliff with the last movie at the same year, at the same film festival. Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu is back. Digger is the #1 seed, #2 on Awards Expert, #2 in our Filmbar server community, versus the 16 seed. Florian Zeller has returned after The Sun, this time with Bunker. Bunker is a movie I want to take serious. I think there's a shot that maybe The Father was just a fluke. It was a COVID year. There was not much competition. Zeller just struck gold with one of his plays, but I also think there's a great shot that The Sun was just a miss. It was a play that wasn't as universally acclaimed on stage. It clearly did not translate to the screen, so I think that Bunker could be something, but it's going against Digger, and we have no reason to doubt this movie right now.
Well, we know people who have seen this movie.
And for the majority, they all seem to really, really like it.
Yeah, well, they don't love it. That's the thing. You know, this is not reading to me as a potential Best Picture winner, but it is reading as guaranteed nominations. So, yeah, Digger has to beat Bunker here. It has to. It's going to be huge. I mean, I think that this is likely a production design winner. I think that there's an argument that this could be our blockbuster, like in our blockbuster category as well.
I think it could. I think it's one of those movies like One Battle. Where would we have put it last year?
Yeah,
it
Frankenstein as well.
It has the big budget, but it's coming from a filmmaker who typically is an awards darling, and I don't think Digger is going to make a profit. So I think this is a good spot for it, but this is a film, like I said in our intro, if you have this in another category, I totally understand. So Digger advances, and it's going to take on a winner of, I think, a very interesting and intriguing matchup of two films I think that are currently being a little bit undervalued by people, our 8 seed of Sense and Sensibility and our 9 seed of Being Human.
Yeah, I mean, Sense and Sensibility is a remake or a new adaptation of Jane Austen's classic novel. I think it's her best novel. I'm much more of a Sense and Sensibility guy than I am a Pride and Prejudice guy. And this is coming from the British filmmaker Georgia Oakley, who just won some BAFTAs for her film Blue Jean. She is a hot commodity who is... You know, she's on the up and up, and this could be a big breakout moment for her. It also got a prime October release slot from Focus Features. Now, that said, can it escape comparison from the 1995 film, nominated for multiple Oscars, winning Best Adapted Screenplay, directed by Ang Lee, starring Emma Thompson, Kate Winslet, Alan Rickman? Can it escape the comparisons there? I don't know, but look, Focus seems to be very confident in this one, and it has a really solid package. That said, cast is not as impressive as I would like to see for a movie like this. I mean, we've got Daisy Edgar-Jones in the Emma Thompson role. I think she could do really well in that role. We've got Esme Creed-Miles, who I'm not very familiar with, and we've got George McKay in a role that could get some attention. I think that this is a big contender. I think it's undervalued at number 8 for sure.
Yeah, there was a time when Awards Expert first opened up, like that first week, it was down like number 50 overall. It's rose the ranks. I think currently now it's around 25 in the Best Picture race. But to me, this is in my top 7 of the Best Picture
To me, this
category.
is in my top 3.
I think this is a film that, yes, you can make the comparisons, like you said, to the previous installment. But I mean, West Side Story, All Quiet on the Western Front, not Lady Bird, Little Women. They have shown that if the film's good enough, if it has the appeal, it can come back. And yes, you can say Steven Spielberg for West Side Story. I mean, Greta Gerwig was not as big as she is now before Little Women. Edward Berger, no one knew who he was before All Quiet, and that almost won Best Picture. So, like, I understand the hesitance here, but both of these films have had test screening reports. We personally don't know anyone who went to these. Yeah. But my thing for Sense and Sensibility, it was September 11th release date. They test screen it 5 days later. It's October 16th, after TIFF, after Telluride. To me, that says the screening went well. They feel like they can send it to TIFF for a general audience, and they can do what Focus does with all of their contenders, send to Telluride. It's now eligible to go to both.
I think that this film is going to cross over a lot of different audiences because this is coming from Again, Georgia Oakley, she's an indie filmmaker who does some like more interesting critic-heavy stuff. But I think that this is also going to really reach general audiences. It's going to make them cry. This is going to be a big crowd pleaser as well as a critic pleaser. So to me, Sense and Sensibility is huge. But at number 9, we've got Being Human. This is Sean Hader's follow-up to Coda. It is about a disability activist, and it sounds like a very typical biopic. Sounds like something that is probably going to be powerful, probably going to be informative. It's not going to be new. It's not going to be new. And I don't think Sean Hader is someone that we need to see get more Best Picture nominations after Coda. I think Coda was a bit of a fluke, but maybe I'm wrong about that. That said, for me, this is an easy matchup. Sense and Sensibility advances.
I would agree that it's an easy matchup to push it through, but Being Human is a film that if it was going against a film that maybe was a little weaker or we weren't as confident, I would entertain more because, yes, it may be kind of a generic biopic, but this does typically feel like the film that gets in that people, at least in our community of like awards lovers, film lovers, be like, oh, this is really getting awards attention. I don't really see it, but it latches one of general audiences. It could crush somewhere like TIFF. It has a great cast, or it has a great reason to get the casting nomination. You could see maybe some acting noms, screenplay.
Yeah.
It's got Apple behind it. Apple is a studio that when they play the game, they play it really well. F1, Killers of the Flower Moon, Coda all got Best Picture nominations. Yes, they missed out with Emancipation, The Banker, but those are films I don't think were really ever in the conversation. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Being Human can maybe be that next test to show like, hey, is Apple a real contender when they have a film? Or maybe this is a film just like Emancipation that on paper reads like a player, but once you see it, it's like, oh, it's not a player.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be too average of a biopic.
I think that's fair, especially when we have 1949. We potentially could have Michael. Yeah. We have other biopics that are really taking up the space.
It's one of those things where we say elevated Oscar bait. This is just Oscar bait. And just Oscar bait doesn't play as often now. I mean, it rarely does. Like, we still see the occasional King Richard. And maybe this is King Richard, but to me, you know, this isn't Venus and Serena.
Yeah. That's to bring us to our next match, which you might be looking here saying, hey, why are these guys in this category? You had The Adventures of Cliff Booth from David Fincher, written by Quentin Tarantino. If this was theatrical release, maybe this is a blockbuster contender.
I'd still say it's a prestige thing.
I would agree, but I think it's another one of those kind of
it's
bordering the lines. And this is the film that, oddly, I'm getting more and more confident the further we get into the year. The trailer looks great. We've heard recently that Netflix is moving away from the August release date, going to the fall. It's not confirmed, but that's what the sources are saying. There's been multiple Variety, Hollywood Reporter, articles that came out saying August release date. Since I've now removed that from their article, so that tells me Netflix is maybe reconsidering dropping this before Venice. That this can show up at Venice, maybe not in comp, maybe in comp.
It could be,
and they can play there. Maybe this is Netflix's big dog after all. That we're kind of writing it off as just being kind of a stream click. Because I mean, Hollywood made money, but it didn't make that type of money to be strictly a box office.
Well,
type movie.
It did. I mean, Hollywood was hugely successful. Tarantino is one of those household names.
It is. I guess for me, more so thinking people are writing off saying oh, this is strictly just for the Netflix top 5. I think there's more here. I think even if it's not a picture player, I could see Cliff Booth kind of being like a Knives Out, a Glass Onion type thing that has screenplay, could find its way to a few tech shortlists, and maybe it gets them, maybe it doesn't. I don't know if they do Brad Pitt again for the same role, but I think people are undervaluing this. I mean, the 5th seed here isn't too bad, but in Adapted, I know Adapted's stacked right now, but I could totally see this being a solo screenplay type nomination.
Look, it's David Fincher doing a Quentin Tarantino script. That's going to be fun. Mm-hmm. But to me, this is reading more like The Killer than it is Mank.
That I agree with.
You know, so I don't think that this is going to be huge, but it's going up against our 12th seed, Taika Waititi's Clara and the Sun, which is going to be an emotional, sweet sci-fi story. Sounds a lot like Sheep in the Box, actually. With a robot child coming in to mend a family. It doesn't sound like it's going to be in Taika's wheelhouse, and it's another one that we've been hearing about this for 2 years now. It's giving next goal wins.
Yeah, and I mean, I think not being in his wheelhouse could be a positive if it works out.
Yeah.
But your last point, I think, is ultimately why I'm going with Cliff Booth. We've heard about it for 2-3 years now. It hasn't come out. We haven't heard much about it. Maybe it's TIFF this year, but again, it feels like one of those movies that plays TIFF that is just meant to fill out the TIFF slate. It's not meant for much else.
But, well, I don't want to also write off Taika Waititi too much because, like, he's been... We can't just suddenly have Next Goal Wins and Thor Love and Thunder make him, like... He's never going to be a thing again.
Yeah, I mean, this could easily be his reset moment. Like you said, he's doing something different. Ortega is someone who I don't know if she's ready for an Oscar nomination, but could put her into like the cards like a Critics' Choice, a Golden Globe of a lineup at 6 maybe.
Maybe
supporting.
This could be Amy Adams' comeback moment.
Maybe, yeah. But yeah, I'm going Cliff Booth here. It moves on to the round of 32.
I think Claire and the Sun would have won some other matchups for me, but not this one.
That brings us to our next matchup of Jack of Spades, the 4 seed, going against the 13 of I Play Rocky. And I know out there you're saying this is easy. It's the Coen brother, but I don't know. I Play Rocky has had some good buzz from test screens so far. This feels like a film.
So did The Greatest Beer Run Ever.
It did. This feels like a film that could drop like at TIFF, and people, general audiences, really rally behind. But I think that's where it stops. I think if TIFF typically gets 2 out of their 3 PCA placements in Best Picture, this is the one of the 3 that doesn't make Best Picture. And I think the biggest damning aspect against I Play Rocky is it's Amazon. Amazon has their movie. It has a film that could get 10 nominations. I don't think they'll even push this for picture. Maybe they could play it for like an actor, but I think it's maybe just an acting push. It doesn't need to be a picture player.
But what's against Jack of Spades is it's a Coen Brothers movie that no distributor has. It is completely independent. No one has picked up this movie. We've been getting news and news and news of other movies being bought. Jack of Spades has not been purchased. It's apparently very, very dark. But I Play Rocky, Peter Farrelly, I don't think we're going to have anyone allow Peter Farrelly to be big again. I think he's going to get crushed constantly. And there's already been the press that Sly Stallone did not approve of this adaptation of his own life. He didn't even know it was happening until months after it wrapped, I believe.
Interesting.
So, I don't know. It's the unapproved Sylvester Stallone biopic versus Joel Coen. And look, even if no distributors are rushing to get Jack of Spades, I think it's going to do well critically. I wouldn't say either of them are a Best Picture player, but Jack of Spades wins for me.
Moving on into our next matchup here, and this is another one that I think is pretty easy. It's Ink versus Memory Police. You've heard it from other videos. You've heard it from other people. Memory Police hasn't even gone into production yet. Regardless of filming, regardless of editing.
This is another one that, like, I swear this has been on predictions for years. 4 or 5 years now.
I mean, I know that year we were one of the few people riding with Emma Stone throughout the year. And I think for a lot of people, this is what people want to be Lily Gladstone's moment to shine, her next time around in award season. And I think she will get that. We've seen it in TV. Mm-hmm. She's going to get her another chance in film. I just don't think it's this movie because clearly this movie can't happen yet.
Yeah, it has not entered production.
I may not believe in Ink all that much, but I mean, if it's going against a film that 99.9% is not coming out this year, I think it's an easy advance.
Yeah, Ink is interesting. I love Danny Boyle. I think that he always does interesting stuff. But why does this not have a distributor yet? It's another one like Jack of Spades. I mean, Jack of Spades, I can be like, yeah, it's too dark. But Ink is based on a popular play. It is a political film about Australian media. It's about Rupert Murdoch. Why does this not have a distributor?
And I think just like Jack of Spades, these are 2 films that if they are ready, I would maybe want to see them at Cannes. We've heard reports Jack of Spades is not at Cannes. I don't know if that's because it's not ready or whatnot.
I could see either of these be Venice too.
I can see Venice too. It's just for me, going to Venice isn't as attractive as Cannes is nowadays.
Yeah, but for a movie like these, I could see. I mean, I'd love to see Jack of Spades at Cannes because Joel Coen is a Cannes guy, I think, more so. But Danny Boyle being at Venice, that feels like a good place for him. I'd love to see him there. I'd love to see him at TIFF. But I'd love to see this get good distribution.
That's the thing is there's people out there, if we were doing our normal predictions where we broke them down by studio, personally, I don't think A24 has anything. A24 could maybe acquire one of these 2, but you go back to...
It's not... well, Jack of Spades is more their type of movie. Ink's not their type of movie.
But, like, they had Macbeth, so you would feel like the relationship would be there to
Jack
already have Jack of Spades, but they don't have it yet. Some people would say Focus has nothing. I know that we're both from the Sense and Sensibility train, and then you can go to some other studios, but like those are the 2 big ones I feel like who don't have what I would consider their main contender. But like you said, No one has it yet. They don't seem to be playing Cannes, so we're not going to get any intel with these films till like August.
Yeah. Next matchup, number 3, The Social Reckoning, the Aaron Sorkin sequel to The Social Network.
I do not like this title.
The Social Reckoning. And then number 14, Madden, the David O. Russell Madden biopic about making the video game. Look, I read the script for Madden. It's not bad. It's just like not special. It's like it's a movie about making a video game. Think Air, but instead of making shoes, they're making a video game. And it's Nick Cage in a fat suit, which is going to be really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think Madden could be a Globes play, but maybe the new Globes are cool.
New Globes are cool.
They may not even do it.
Yeah, no, I think that this is just like DOA because it's so silly. And I mean, if Amsterdam was nothing and it was more prestigious, then like this is about the making of a video game. I really don't believe in it. Social Reckoning, I mean, Aaron Sorkin, love him, hate him, however you feel about him. He knows what he's doing. And, at the very least, this is like being the Ricardos.
And I mean, again, with what I said before, Madden's an Amazon movie. They have Project Hail Mary. Yeah. So, like, are they going to give this much attention? We've seen in the past, Amazon specifically kind of focuses in on one movie and makes that movie happen where it needs to. So, yeah, Social Reckoning moves on. Sony's only dog in the race. And we get to a matchup that... to me is very uninteresting. We have the 7 seed of Behemoth versus the 10 of Artificial.
I think you're underrating Behemoth.
Behemoth is a film that I want to believe in because it sounds so cool. Yeah. But then you look at its cast and how many cast changes it's had. Weird.
Yeah.
It's had so many cast changes over the last few months. I don't think it's shot yet.
No, it's definitely shot.
Okay, it's shot. Okay, because I know that Will Arnett came on like a month ago, so I didn't know.
There's a weird thing that they do where a lot of the time they'll announce cast coming on after it's wrapped.
Gotcha, okay.
It's just like a press rollout thing that they do to keep the movie on their mind, I think. I don't know.
Behemoth is real. It's a movie about making sound and scores for films.
So it has 12 composers.
So it has tech appeal.
It's crazy.
So for me, it's an easy move on because it's going against Artificial. It's the newest Luca movie. I'm a Luca guy, but clearly the Academy is not Luca guys. And
we've heard testimony reports.
We've heard, and this could be very damning to some, to other people, maybe not. It's worse than After the Hunt.
Also, like, are we really? Is the Academy really going to go for a biopic of Sam Altman? I don't think so. I mean, you could have said the same thing about Mark Zuckerberg back in 2010, but
Luca's not David Fincher.
Luca's not David Fincher, and Sam Altman and OpenAI is not Facebook. I think people still kind of loved Facebook back in 2010. It was kind of like why are we making a Facebook movie? But Facebook hadn't destroyed the world at that point. Whereas I feel like the general industry consensus, like this movie's going to be trashed. Regardless of its stance towards AI, it's just like, why do we need to focus on this?
I wish we could have had a matchup of Social Reckoning versus Artificial. Sadly, the community rankings don't help us there, but they do help us to give us our 2 versus 15 seed. And in my opinion, this is the biggest blowout of this round. It's Wild Horse 9 going against The Death of Robin Hood.
Yeah, Wild Horse 9 wins. I mean, Death of Robin Hood, it's interesting. Michael Sarnowski did Pig, which was shockingly like bigger than I expected it to be. Nicolas Cage got a lot of attention for that one. Death of Robin Hood, it's not reading as that to me. Whereas Wild Horse 9, Martin McDonagh, this looks like it could be a return to sort of the In Bruges era of his career. It's not as dark or as moody as 3 Billboards or Banshees of Inisherin. It looks like it's a little bit more fun, a little bit more action-packed. That's what I'm getting from it. And it still looks like it hits on some pretty hard topics. So to me, Wild Horse 9, easily in. And also, this looks like Searchlight's big player.
Now we're going to get to one of the most interesting matchups I think we have, because we have a film that people clearly believe in. Our 1 seed of this region, Digger, I think it's the number 2 overall seed, and it's a film that on paper makes so much sense to advance, and we both believe in it to a certain extent. But then it's going against a film that we both believe in a lot, that's being very much undervalued by a lot of people, being Sense and Sensibility at the number 8 seed. And for me, to what film needs to advance, it kind of depends in my mind of what way do I want to go about. Which film do I feel safer for Best Picture? Or what film do I think has a better shot to win Best Picture?
I'm exactly in the same place as you, because Digger, I think there is no chance that misses Best Picture. It also has guaranteed wins in makeup, production design, very likely a visual effects nomination, very likely a Tom Cruise win. Very, very likely. But I don't think it has a single chance of winning Best Picture.
Interesting, because I was going the opposite side.
Really?
I feel like Sense and Sensibility to me feels like the safer player on the paper. Just because, yes, I understand maybe people adore the old one, but if this one's good enough, like we saw from Little Women, like we saw from All Quiet, like we saw from West Side Story, those films can just get in a lineup of 10. While Digger, it's this giant, bold swing. Yes, we know from test screenings that people seem to really like it, but there's also people who are saying, this is not going to be a movie for everyone. This is a film that might repel some people. Some people are going to be bored by this movie. They're going to think it's way too much. And we've seen Inarritu in the past, when some of his films are a little bit more controversial, like Bardo, they can kind of fall off a cliff. And I could see a world where, yes, Cruise survives. Yes, the makeup survives. Some of the text can get in. Maybe they're not winners anymore. And this is like the 12 to 15 in picture that just starts the season strong, but then just falls and falls and falls off. By Sense and Sensibility, to me, feels like that film that's just safe. It's like the Begonia. It's like Marty Supreme, where it's just in those like 5 to 7 range slots.
I disagree strongly, because I think like you're leaning on Bardo too much as a comp for Digger, when I think Don't Look Up is the comparison. I think you put Digger into 1,000 different Best Picture lineups, it wins 0% of the time. From everything I've heard, it is big, it is bold, it is the type of movie that people say they respect more than they love. It is a political satire. Bardo was a surrealist film, right? We had no idea what Bardo was beforehand. We know what Digger is. We know, like, we've heard enough about it to know that this is going to get massive tech support, which always helps get in. And I think that 99 out of 100 times it's going to make it into Best Picture, but it's never going to win. Sense and Sensibility, however, is a film from an unknown filmmaker who only has Blue Jean, which is critically beloved, yes, but was not huge commercially, only got into the BAFTAs and barely got into the BAFTAs. It is based on a classic book, but it's based on a classic book where if you don't do it right, people are going to be pissed. And the cast is not as big or as noteworthy. The crew is not as big or as noteworthy. To me, there's a lot of worlds where Sense and Sensibility gets nothing and is just like oh yeah, that was a nice little movie that came out. But it's also emotional. It's beautiful. It's going to make people cry. And if you hit the right mixture of that populist appeal with the artistic appeal of Georgia Oakley, you could get a Best Picture winner here. So to me, I don't know. I don't know which way I lean. I think Digger is much more safe, because Inarritu, if he's not making something as weird as Bardo, he's in. And this is much closer to Birdman or The Revenant or Babel than it is to Bardo.
That's very fair. And I guess I get your reasoning there. So what do you want to do in this scenario? What films should we push forward? Because I want to push both of these, but we can't.
We can't push both of these. These are both in my Best Picture 10. I have Sense and Sensibility ranked higher. I think that there's a bigger chance of it winning Best Picture. I'd like to push this because, you know what? Like, I think that everyone is going to talk about Digger in their videos. I think people are writing off Sense and Sensibility. I think we can be the first, maybe among the first people, YouTube commentators, to really take this film seriously.
Then let's do it. Sense and Sensibility takes down Digger, another 1 seed out before the Elite 8 matchups. And what will Sense and Sensibility go on to match up against? Is it going to be Cliff Booth, or is it going to be Jack of Spades?
Well, I'm really torn here, because I, again, don't see either of these as a Best Picture player, because Cliff Booth just looks too fun. And Jack of Spades, there's a reason why it hasn't been acquired yet, I think. But then again, The Brutalist happened just a few years ago, and that wasn't acquired. But yeah, at the moment, I'm going to lean Cliff Booth. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think I might be there as well. Originally, when we first made this bracket, I was on the Jack of Spades trade because I thought this would be one of the American representatives at the Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah,
it would go out of the gate. It would showcase, hey, this is a tech and craft player. It's an original film crafted up by a Coen brother. This is the Coens' return to the Oscars after what feels like 10 plus years, especially in the Best Picture race. But from all sources, it's not going to go to Cannes. We don't know who's going to be the distributor. I've always been very hesitant on those films that go to Venice. Brutalist was something that I did not hop on the train until it was undeniable. Mm-hmm. Yes, maybe I took the swing with A Room Next Door, but I was there before Venice anyway. So for me, I don't want to play...
That was Sony Pictures Classics, not...
who knows? Yeah. For me, I don't want to play the waiting game. We'll talk about this with a film in our next bracket. I don't want to sit and wait for a film to decide, is it going to be this year? Is it going to be next year? Who has it? Because that's burned me in the past. Think about like Queer with Luca Guadagnino. I should be like, oh, A24 could grab it. Amazon could grab it. And A24 did, but there was a reason why no one had it.
Yeah, everyone was on Amazon having Queer. It was like, well, there's a reason that they don't have it. But Jack of Spades, the big thing against it is like, yeah, The Brutalist did not have a distributor going into Venice. It was also from Brady Corbet, who had made Vox Lux before it. Jack of Spades is Joel Coen. There is no reason that a Coen Brothers movie should be undistributed at this point. So, even Honey Don't and Drive Away Dolls had focus features behind them. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is on Jack of Spades. I'm nervous about it.
So I guess Cliff Booth is moving on to our Elite Eight. That's going to be a very fun top half of the region because there's two upsets happening right there. But moving down to the bottom half of this region, we have Ink going against The Social Reckoning. Two films that are kind of the same.
Kind of. I mean, they're both about misinformation. They're both about controlling media. But look... Number 6 is Ink. It has Danny Boyle. He is stylish as hell. I mean, Steve Jobs is like, I think, the gold standard for the biopic. And
that still missed picture.
And it still missed picture. It did miss picture. But, I mean, I don't think either of these movies make Best Picture.
I think there's a better shot for Social Reckoning. We know Sorkin has his fans. You can argue Ricardo's was the first movie out last time around. Trial had an argument to win picture that year.
He also had Molly's Game.
He did have Molly's Game, but Molly's Game still got an above the line screenplay nomination.
Okay,
Boyle is someone who the Academy, I think, kind of like. Now I'm forgetting his name. We talked about him in the Populist Region, Captain Phillips and
Paul Greengrass.
Yeah, I think Boyle, someone like Greengrass,
I so disagree.
So often does not connect, but when he does connect, it's very strong. For me, Social Reckoning, I can see the avenue for multiple acting. I can see the avenue for screenplay. While with Ink, like the only way I see it getting that stuff is if it's a confirmed picture nominee. I can see stuff happen without it for Social Reckoning.
So here's the thing that I think is really making me lean away from Social Reckoning. It is not going to be able to escape the comparison to The Social Network, and it will be inferior in every single way. There's not a chance that anything about it is as good as Social Network. It is going to be inescapable.
Well, I guess reversing back to the last matchup we just had, Ink has no distribution.
Yes.
Social Network or Social Reckoning does. Cliff Booth is going to be compared to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Social Reckoning will be compared to Social Network as well.
Yeah, no, but I think that's different because Cliff Booth is just going to be fun. I don't see it as a picture player. I don't really see it as an Oscar contender. I see it as like, it's going to be fun. People are going to really love it. It's also going for different things than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was. That was a more serious movie. Yes, it was a comedy, but like it was about Hollywood in the 60s. Whereas Ink, like Social Reckoning it's going to be begging us to take it seriously, and I don't think people will. I think people are kind of over it at this point. So to me, yeah, Ink doesn't have a distributor, but it's based on a play that has good reviews. There's a known quantity to it, and it's not going to die by comparison because I think The Social Reckoning is going to have the same goals as The Social Network, but Sorkin is nowhere near the director that David Fincher is.
Here's the thing. Whoever we push through is losing in the next round.
Yes. Yeah, either of them are going to lose.
And for me, the reason why I want to push Social Reckoning is even if it's not a picture thing, I think it can survive based off of Being the Ricardos. Being the Ricardos was a film that was trashed by critics, had no audience reception, did awful streaming numbers on Amazon. It still got 3 acting nominations. I think even if Social Reckoning is looked at as a failed replication of The Social Network, Sorkin's screenplay will at least be in the conversation. Jeremy Strong doing another Mark Zuckerberg performance could be in the realm of supporting actor. Mikey
but
Madsen
he's going to be so compared to Jesse Eisenberg, right?
He probably will be, but I mean, I think there'll be some people who says that they prefer his interpretation.
That would be
crazy.
There'll be
some people who says it's awful, it's bad. But for me, I just struggle to see the point of pushing Ink. But I can give you the.
I think it's got acting potential as well.
So I'll give you Ink, but then when we get to our next bracket, I'll take if we have a tiebreaker over there.
We'll see. I mean, I think both of these can be acting contenders. I would lean Ink. I don't really care for either of them.
So then let's just jump to our next match. But we'll come back.
We also know that either of these are going to lose. So what's the point in getting hung up about it?
So I guess
we could literally just leave this part blank and just be like, it's just going to lose the next one no matter what.
Let's do that for fun. Because it will go up of the winner of our Searchlight battle, Wild Horse 9 versus Behemoth. And what I will say for this is, which director goes to Venice? Searchlight succeeds when they go to Venice.
I think both of them could go to Venice, but
Okay.
I could also see Behemoth be like a Empire of Light trajectory of like Telluride TIFF.
Yeah, and like Wild Horse 9, I understand people be like, well, McDonough can't do it 3 times in a row.
He can.
But I think he can.
He can. Well, I also saw people to the trailer be like, it looks too fun. Like, it's not going to get in. In Bruges would have got in if there was 10 nominees.
And
this is in Bruges.
And I understand there's deeper themes at play in 3 Billboards, but 3 Billboards is overall a more fun movie, at least compared to Banshees, I would say.
Yeah, Banshees is pretty miserable. But Wild Horse 9 looks silly, and it looks action-packed. It is in Bruges, but with Americans instead of Brits.
And there's people out there saying it could miss picture, but they still have Malkovich in. They still have a supporting player in. They still have screenplay in. If you have that, it's a McDonough movie. It's just going to get in picture at that point.
Yeah. So Wild Horse 9 is like 100. I feel so confident in this. I don't think it's win competitive in many places, but it's definitely going to be nominated. So with that goes through. Behemoth, I think, is underrated at this point, but I don't know. I would say it's not Wild Horse 9.
I would agree there. I think Wild Horse 9 is the type of film that is never really in the winner contention, but it's always in that top 5. It's a thing that the director gets in, the screenplay gets in, the cast gets in, it gets a few texts. We saw Banshees last time get its score in. Cinematography was in the conversation. I think all that stuff can come back around here for Wild Horse 9. But we get into the top half of the bracket, Sweet 16, the 8 versus 5 seed, where I'm assuming if you looked at this bracket and you felt it yourself, you probably wouldn't have both of these movies. Maybe you have one of them, but you wouldn't have both of these. But that's why we're different here at Filmball.
This is fun. And like, I honestly, Digger, I think, has more potential and like should probably be here, but we just want to rep Sense and Sensibility because I think people are really underrating it. I'm going to push it over Cliff Booth because, again, I don't think Cliff Booth is going to be much more than just like a really fun Netflix movie. It's The Killer. It's David Fincher doing his paychecks for Netflix, but doing something really cool with it. Sense and Sensibility, I think, could be a major acting player, could be a major craft player. It's going to be a crowd pleaser that makes people cry, and it's got a prime release slot from Focus Features. To me, that is reading Best Picture Player.
Yeah, and I think on top of all that, as I've said a few times, I think Cliff Booth's best case scenario is Glass Onion, where they try to push it. It gets rejected over and over again. Maybe it has a good performance at the Globes. Brad Pitt can get in there for comedy actor when they're split up. At the end of the day, it's just a solo screenplay movie, but Sense and Sensibility can be an above all the line player where it could be picture. Maybe this is the woman who finds her way into the director's slot. Could get in for screenplay, could get 2-3 actors, casting, text as well, because assuming it might be a period piece as well. So then you can find production, costumes, makeup, and hair. I feel like there's so much going more for this than Cliff Booth.
Yeah, we got to go Sense and Sensibility. It just makes sense. Now, of course, we have our just gimme round. Wild Horse 9 already advanced.
Yeah, there's a blank. It has nothing to go against.
It wins either against Ink or Social Reckoning. Like, there's no point in even doing it. Wild Horse 9 is such a big player. But our final round here, Sense and Sensibility versus Wild Horse 9. And as much as I'd love to push Sense and Sensibility through, Wild Horse 9 is just so guaranteed. It's so guaranteed.
It's one of those things that you just look at the trailer and you're like, yeah, this is legit. Like, I think regardless of your stance on McDonough, I'm personally not a huge fan of McDonough, but I watched that trailer. I'm like, this looks really fun. I'm really into this movie. I want to see what it can do. I mean, it's McDonough. It's probably going to go to Venice. It's probably going to be a contender for at least a few above the line, maybe wins. Original screenplay looks a little light this year. Then you have Malkovich, whether he's lead or supporting. I know there's some hype for some of the supporting contenders as well. Test screens have said this film is a lot of fun. Malkovich is giving his career best performance. And I mean, we talked about Digger. It's eliminated here. For me, we'll talk more about it in the acting video, but if Timmy couldn't win last year for Marty, I think a lot of those same negativities and negative facts about Timothée Chalamet can be applied to Tom Cruise. And I think Cruise could be the early frontrunner, could win Critics' Choice, maybe wins Golden Globe, but then when we hit BAFTA, when we hit SAG, falls off. And if Malkovich's movie is in the top 5, he can win. That's an above the line win. Maybe McDonough finally wins his Oscar for screenplay, and this is a top 3 movie, not a I need to win Best Picture type movie, but it's up there, like what Sentimental Value would have been this year, where maybe it didn't win those above the line awards, but it was always a top 5 player.
Yeah, I think that there's very little argument you can have that this is not top 5, whereas I think Sense and Sensibility could be guaranteed Best Picture, but it could be like a number 8 contender. I mean, I personally have a top 5 right now, but I could see an angle that this is a lower player. Digger is one where we sort of know from the test screenings it's going to be polarizing. It's going to be a big tech player, but is it going to be widely beloved? I don't know. I think Wild Horse 9 is likely going to get that wide love and acclaim and big reception that we're expecting.
And the last thing I'll say for Wild Horse 9 before we move into our final region is, I mean, it's Searchlight. I understand they underperformed last year, but I would say the writing was really on the walls there. They had no film at Venice. Yes, they bought a Venice movie, but they entered Venice with no film. Year after year, their main contender goes to Venice unless it's a complete unknown, which was rushed to be finished that year because they didn't feel confident in A Real Pain. Yeah. They didn't believe that film had the juice to make picture, and ultimately they were proven right. And I would say last year, they sent a film, The Niff, the Bradley Cooper movie, the thing I was saying that could happen, but it was just too small, kind of what you were saying against me. Rental Family was a film that I understand why people were backing it, but it came from someone who wrote and directed 2 episodes of an acclaimed season. There was people saying like, oh, it was the creator of Beef. It was someone who did some of the most popular episodes, but was not the driving force behind that. And then, I mean, The Roses was kind of funny to look back on that one. But Ann Lee was clearly a film people just did not respond to. They bought out of desperation because they're like, well, the rest of our slate's cooked. So I understand that you can be like, well, Searchlight can miss, but when they have a film that looks as strong as this, they just got it.
Well, one year does not dethrone the king. You know?
Yeah.
Like that's Searchlight is the king. And, sometimes they just don't have anything. But I think that goes to show that like sometimes you can't just go entirely based on studios. Mm-hmm. You have to look at the type of movies that they have, and you have to think like any studio can miss. It just depends on what they have and what those things are up against. And now our last conference, is that what we're going to call it?
I would call it regions, brackets,
division,
type of films.
Yeah, so our last division here is the indie division. And in past years, we've got stuff in this category like Train Dreams, Anora, Everything Ever All at Once. There's always something in here that gets through. And this year, I mean, we're just talking about studios that don't have anything and do they need to make it in. And this year, we've got A24. And it seems like the big dog that they have is No One Cares.
Jesse Eisenberg.
It's still called Untitled Jesse Eisenberg Musical Comedy. It's not a musical. It's arguably not so much a comedy.
From what I've heard from test screens, because this is one where I actually know someone who went to it, they described it as very much think of like If I Had Legs, I'd Kill You, but like made or
that's the sequel. That's the sequel. If I had legs, I'd kill you.
Yeah, I kick you.
The second one,
directed by like a Beau is Afraid style Ari Aster. So like
that's crazy.
It sounds so fun,
and it's not a musical.
So interesting. They said that Julianne Moore's character wants to do a musical because she's bored. There's a few scenes throughout, but that's not the focus. The focus is very much like Rose Byrne, where she's kind of losing her mind, or even Joaquin Phoenix, just fully committing herself to the movie. Yeah. So it sounds very fun, but also comparing it to those two movies makes me think not at all for awards. I understand Rose Byrne happened last year, but her film got nothing else. I guess he got a WGA. Or did it even get WGA?
If I Had Legs, yeah, it got WGA. Everyone is expecting it to be a Real Pain follow-up. Like, people are expecting this to be something that makes you feel in the same way that A Real Pain did.
Real Pain didn't even make picture.
Yeah, but I think what people want is like, oh, it almost made it last time. He can do it this time. But Jesse Eisenberg is not interested in that. Yeah. He's not. And what I've heard from people who've seen the film as well is this is so much closer to When You Finish Saving the World than it is to A Real Pain. It's a film that is meant to make you uncomfortable. It's meant to make you laugh in discomfort. Again, not a musical. I think people are really, really hung up on it being a musical. It's not. But I think that there is an angle for Julianne Moore. I think there's an angle for Paul Giamatti. It's up against our number 16, Misty Green, which is Chris Rock's new movie. And you told me that the twins, the Oscar expert duo, had a really good argument for this one. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, Chris Rock, this isn't something they mentioned in their video, but someone in our server, Banjo, I want to give a shout out to you, brought this up the other day too. Top 5 had like a 78, like an 80 Metacritic.
Yeah, no, Top 5 is a great
film. It was
film.
very, very well received. It was an awards play, but it was a very, very well received. So it shows that Chris Rock kind of has the juice in him. But
yeah, if you haven't seen Top 5, you should see it.
Very good movie.
It's dope.
But the twins were talking about this film. The cast is really good. Daniel Kaluuya is in it. I mean, he's a man who you can look at his film resume. He's very selective of what he does.
Also, apparently he's in a cult now.
Maybe that has been rumored. Yes.
Yeah.
Jared Leto, not to that extent, but sort of. And then, I mean, it also has Adam Driver in it. It's got a lot of big names in smaller roles. The lead in the film, whose name is escaping me at this moment, is said to be, this is her big
Rosa
starring.
Eleazar, I think.
Yeah. This is said to be like her big shining moment to be kind of introduced on a bigger scale. But it's about Hollywood. It's about an actress trying to make her big break, her big return to the scene. And I feel like Chris Rock is kind of going to give like an inside baseball type approach where it's like, hey,
and it's going to be funny as hell.
Let's make a few digs. There's been so much talk about Hollywood and how weird, how off the rails it can kind of be behind the scenes. So I feel like they may play a little bit into that. It's Chris Rock. It's original movie, original screenplay is really light this year, at least in my opinion. There's like 2 films I feel good about, and the rest of the slate is kind of wide open.
Yeah, I'm not convinced by Misty Green as much as I love Top 5. But I'm also not convinced by the Eisenberg film. Yeah, I don't think No One Cares is anything. I think people are really overrating it. But that said, like, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You was probably top 15 last year.
It was, but I feel like the difference between that and this, if we were to take those reactions from the screenings at face value, is it was top 15 because Rose Byrne was sweeping the critics at first because she had never had her moment of recognition. Julianne Moore is an Oscar winner. Is she going to get that same sort of appeal in terms of an early sweep to really cement this film to be an actual contender? I think both of these films probably go to TIFF. And it's kind of like, does A24 pull out a placement here? Some people may say it's another A24 movie that we'll talk about in this region. For me, I like the idea of Chris Rock getting his moment of shine. It's something I said for Michael earlier. There's not a lot of films featuring people of color. This will be one of those films. And if it hits, there's a chance that this could have multiple acting nominations. Chris Rock can finally get his first Oscar nomination, redemption for the slap, you could say, and could really burst into the scene with a TIFF People's Choice, maybe not winner, but a top 3 placement. I get those are the same arguments you can use for No One Cares, but I feel like...
Oh, No One Cares would never win People's Choice.
Yeah,
like,
from
it's
how
Jesse
it's been
Eisenberg at his weirdest. I don't know. I don't feel strongly about either of these films. I think I would go No One Cares over Misty Green, but going Misty Green makes a statement.
I think it's fun.
To me, No One Cares is like top 25. Misty Green is top 50.
Yeah,
but like the fact that No One Cares is still top 10 on like Awards Expert, it's our number 1 seed here. We need to knock it down to size. So I'll go Misty Green.
I'd love to hear that. This is a film that even if I don't personally have it in my 10, I have a wide open slot of 10 that I want to throw a movie from this region, from this bracket in. One of those films is our next one, but Misty Green has the ability to compete in original screenplay, which I feel like we say this every year. One of the screenplay categories is light, but by the end of the year, it's the stronger one. But like original, I feel good about Wild Horse 9. Everything else, like Digger, yes, Digger would be the other one. But everything else after that, it's kind of like I can see it, but I can also see it miss too if that movie's too weird and it ends up not being Neon's number 1 or number 2 if they buy something. So like Misty Green could easily just be a solo screenplay movie. It could find an actor in there. It could be The Big Sick
thing. Yeah, it could, like The Big Sick was another comedian making a movie. Could be that. But our next matchup is number 8, The Invite, versus our 9th seed, The Rivals of Amziah King, the film that we railed against last year. We were like, no one's going to buy this movie. It's not coming out. And still, we're 4 months into 2026, and Black Bear has not released any info about when this movie's coming out or anything.
They said summer. I could be wrong.
But like, we haven't seen a trailer. We haven't seen more images. There's just nothing around this. Whereas The Invite, A24 just bought it. It seems like it's a major crowd pleaser. It's a return to form after Don't Worry, Darling for Olivia Wilde. So to me, even though we know the response to Amziah King is probably a little bit stronger than The Invite, we don't know what the hell Black Bear's doing with it.
And I would say in defense of the invite, because this is a film that I can totally see filling that solo screenplay slot or picture and screenplay.
I think that's crazy.
What we have seen is people at Sundance on the ground. I mean, our friend of the channel, Ryan Castleman, and some other people that we know that went to Sundance. Also, this is their favorite movie at the fest.
Okay.
Josephine may have had the bigger awards buzz, but I feel like listening to people's Sundance coverage or people who went there or watched virtually, I don't think The Invite was a virtual movie, but people were raving this movie, saying how fun it is, how witty it is. My big reservation with it is it's so contained, and its nomination package, I guess very akin to No One Cares, would be pretty small. Like, it's an ensemble, 4 people. Who would even be lead? Are they all supporting? Who is the bigger push? I doubt Olivia Wilde is a director, player. Texts probably aren't happy, so then it's just screenplay and picture. And we've seen A24 pull that off of Past Lives. So Past Lives was the best movie of the year for 6 months until Oppenheimer screened. Where The Invite doesn't have those reviews at this moment. So for me, it's an easy push ahead of Anxiety King, but it's one that I don't know how far it can go just because it has a ceiling on what its max nomination slot could be. Like, I could see this maxing at 4, where it's like picture, screenplay, one of the supportings, and maybe like casting, but that would be a very, very big stretch.
So our next matchup is number 5 versus number 12, and this is sort of like a battle of the bottom of the barrel because Saturn Return is number 5. It's ranked number 5 because it's coming from Greg Quaidar of Sing Sing, Clint Bentley of Train Dreams. This is their first film produced by Netflix. Netflix released Train Dreams, but Netflix produced this one. And it's a romance starring Charles Melton, but it's going up against David Lowery's Mother Mary, which we've been hearing about for 3 or 4 years now, and it's only just about to come out. It's coming out in like a week or 2, and we have heard nothing. We even heard David Lowery a couple of years ago admit that the film was like a total mess and he didn't know what to do with it. And it looks good. Honestly, it looks really cool, but it looks absolutely out of this world strange.
And that's really the David Lowery special, is he is such a master of crafting an atmosphere. Like The Green Knight's a perfect example, or A Ghost Story, where those are films that are very difficult to get into, but even if you don't like what you're watching, you can kind of just pale in the beauty of how they look visually. The issue is it kind of feels like Mother Mary is another installment inside of that type of film, on top of the fact that, like you said, it's been 2-3 years of hearing that, hey, this could be an awards player from some people, and then it's just no word on the movie. Now it's coming out in like a week. By the time this video is out, it might be in limited release here in New York, and no one's talking about it.
There's still nothing about it. So to me, even though we have heard direct screening reports from Saturn Return, it screened in New Jersey like a couple weeks ago. We've heard direct things from it, and the word was very negative. Still, a known quantity is better than an unknown of Mother Mary, which releases in a week and no one is talking about.
Yeah, and I feel like even because the whole thing with test screens, and I feel like this is a place where either we've been burned in the past or other people have been burned in the past. It's knowing who's attending these screens.
Yeah, usually when we're burned, it's like it's because the people that are going, we don't know how they feel about this type of movie.
We like read an article or we hear hearsay like, oh, I know someone who went, but like it's when you actually know. And I will say the person who like saw this doesn't really love their other movies, so maybe that could be a little biased perspective. Maybe this is a heater, but like you said, Mother Mary is clearly not anything. So I feel like Saturn Returns lives another round here, but really the thing with this indie bracket, this is the weakest region to me. You'll see as we go slot by slot.
It's the weakest region, but I think that there's potential, like there's going to be 1 or 2 that could be
super strong,
massive strong, but you're going to get more weak down the line here.
I feel like we're going to be opposite in this next match.
Yeah, absolutely we're going to be opposite
because we have the 4 seed of I Love Boosters going against the 13 of Primetime.
And I know you're on team Primetime, and I don't fucking understand it. What is it about Primetime? It's an A24 movie from a documentary filmmaker. You always lean away from documentary filmmakers. It is about like a surrogate reality version of To Catch a Predator. This is not going to be an easy watch. This is not going to be a fun watch. It's going to be extremely difficult, extremely challenging. I don't think that this is going to be the movie that you think it is.
It might not be the movie I think it is, but that's not why I have it advancing here. We know what I Love Boosters is, and we know it's nothing.
Okay, but I feel like Neon is pushing I Love Boosters so hard. Like there was an NYU screening that I couldn't make it to because I was on set. But that screening, Neon's byline for it is Neon's biggest movie yet.
Yeah, but my thing is just like we have the reactions out of South by Southwest, the festival that's known for glazing movies, and this movie got like, it's good. I love Boots Riley. Sorry to Bother You is one of my favorite movies. I want this to be good. I'm seeing it in a Q&A next week.
I'm going to just check what its Letterboxd is at right now because, like, yeah, South by didn't go absolutely insane for it, but what's it at? 3.6? It's not big. It's not big, but I still think that there's more. Like, to me, Primetime is absolutely nothing. It's not even indie spirits. I think I Love Boosters could still be a thing, even just for, like, a Demi Moore.
Potentially. My thing with Primetime is kind of what we just talked about in the last one is maybe it's not something, but it's the unknown that's interesting. Pattinson is someone who's eventually going to have something break through. Maybe this isn't an Oscar thing, but maybe it is on a smaller scale. While we have heard from people, the embargo is released on I Love Boosters, and it doesn't sound like it would translate to anything. Maybe like a solo original screenplay somewhere, but I feel like at this point Primetime could also be a solo original screenplay because we have no clue what the movie actually will be. But again, this speaks to the weakness of this bracket because the next match we have, I think, is the very exact replica of what we're talking here, just a little bit stronger in each direction.
Yeah, I would say so. I think though that I Love Boosters is going to perform better than the drama.
I'll give you the boosters. You gave me Misty Green.
Okay.
I'll give you boosters here.
We'll go boosters. But when
we come back in a year and Pattinson has like 2 precursors for Primetime,
that's crazy. There's no way he gets that for playing Chris Hansen. But yeah, we've got the drama at number 6 versus Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma at 11. And look, the drama just came out in theaters. It's got mixed critical reception. It's got extreme controversy around it. It's not going anywhere.
It's not. What I will say is it's got better reviews and reactions from both critics and audiences than Materialists, but Materialists did nothing last year. Couldn't even make WGA open
not better
fifth
than
slot.
critics. Not better than critics. Like it's the drama's at like a 58 on Metacritic.
It must have dropped from when I saw it. I know it got the yellow. I know it got a higher cinema score and it got a higher Rotten Tomatoes from both critics and audiences.
Well, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. I would love to see the drama do well, but to me, it's it came out and it feels like the type of thing that there's no potential for it.
I think to give it some credit, I think Globes could do an actor in a lineup of 6, especially looking at the slate for comedy actors this year. Besides Julianne Moore, just not many comedies with women in it. But
no, I do agree. That feels like something that New Globes would do. But I don't think that
means anything further than the Globes.
Yeah. Whereas Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma, I mean, I saw the TV Glow. Was huge for Jane Schoenbrunn. They are a filmmaker that is on the rise. I think that they're someone who in the next 10 years will have a Best Picture nomination. This film is like a meta take on the slasher. It's coming from Mubi, and we've heard reports that it is going to be at the Cannes Film Festival. Now, whether that's going to be in competition or in a midnight slot, we're yet to see. But it seems like, and especially from the trailer, this is continuing the path of I Saw the TV Glow being a super cerebral, interesting horror movie that's going to get great critical reception. And look, a sort of meta take on the slasher, that could be something that breaks through because this is not just a slasher movie. It's a movie about making a slasher movie and sort of like a queer take on that. I think that Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma could be huge, and it's going to pass the drama for me.
I agree with you. I think the same argument is the same argument from the last category. I think the drama and boosters are pretty even, and I think that Primetime and Camp Miasma are pretty even, but I ultimately agree with you here. It moves on, but it will take up the winner of Josephine and Sweet Sick, which I think this one's pretty easy.
This one's pretty easy, but I do want to just give credit to Sweet Sick. This is Alice Birch. She was one of the writers of the TV show Normal People. She is an Irish writer who also was one of the writers on The Wonder by Sebastian Lelio. She has built up quite a resume for herself. And again, it's Cate Blanchett, it's Searchlight. There's a nice pedigree behind this one. But it's up against Josephine, which I've seen and I think is absolutely phenomenal. It swept Sundance for a reason. It is absolutely jaw-dropping. Now, the big thing against Josephine is that it's being released by Sumerian Pictures, who is brand new. They just released their very first film, Mile End Kicks by Chandler Levac. And I'm going to be real. The release and the rollout for Mile End Kicks is giving me more faith in Josephine. They did a really good marketing campaign for Mile End Kicks. It's going to be a very small release, but at least here in New York, they did a really good job of promoting a little Canadian indie film. Josephine, I think that they could go crazy. And you just have to think, like back in 2017, when Neon bought I, Tonya, that was a big what the fuck. Who are these people? This is nothing. And then they won an Oscar with that movie. This could be like A24 back in like 2013, right? There's always these big studios have to start somewhere. And I think Sumerian Pictures could be using Josephine as a launching pad to bigger success. The film is phenomenal. It's going to be one of the big critical hits of the year. I think that this is going to be big, and I am just riding with Josephine all the way. So, easy winner.
Yeah, I'm sad I didn't get a chance to see it with Sundance Virtual. I was holding out because in Philadelphia they have a Spring Fest where they show movies
and
typically.
They didn't do Josephine.
And they announced the lineup yesterday. Josephine is not there. So I'll have to wait until the Fall Fest, and hopefully it comes to Philadelphia this year for the Fall Fest, because they typically have a great selection of films. Just a little sad not to see Josephine in like 3 weeks, but I'll live.
Next matchup is number 7, Tony, versus number 10, Paper Tiger. Tony is A24. It is Matt Johnson, who just did Nirvana, the band, the show, and it is a biopic of Anthony Bourdain. This movie is going to be really fun. We know that Matt Johnson is good with biopics. He did Blackberry, which was better than it should have been. Matt Johnson is an up-and-comer who is really exciting. Everyone loved Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. And, A24 behind this. There's going to be some juice here. Versus Paper Tiger, it's rumored to go to Cannes. This is James Gray's new movie. But look, James Gray didn't get any Oscar love for Armageddon Time. Didn't get any Oscar love for Ad Astra. Didn't get any Oscar love for The Lost City of Z. Didn't get any Oscar love for Ad Infinitum. He is not going to start now. Paper Tiger doesn't sound like he's doing anything different from normal. To me, this is just a total write-off. Tony advances to the next round.
Yeah, I feel like the conversation ended with when you say James Gray, like you said, just like Scott Cooper last year. It's a guy who makes Oscar sensibility films who they continuously reject year after year. Even if Matt Johnson is a guy who seems very weird for the Oscars to go for, we know they don't do James Gray.
Yeah.
This is still a possibility.
I will say Matt Johnson would be a nightmare for an awards publicist, because he has a lot of stuff that you could dig up, just like...
Yeah, we have Boots Riley and Matt Johnson advancing to the second round.
Dude, imagine them on the campaign trail. It would be a nightmare. And our last matchup in this round, this first round of our last division, number 2, Cry to Heaven, the new Tom Ford movie, versus number 15, Ancient History, coming from A24 and Annie Baker. And look, I really want to go Ancient History here because Annie Baker, one of the forefront playwrights of our time. She's incredible. Janet Planet was great. But Ancient History, we don't know a whole lot about it. And it doesn't sound like, from what we do know, doesn't sound like anything more of an Oscar contender than what Janet Planet was before. It's going to be a great film. Probably not an Oscar contender, versus Tom Ford doing like a 16th century film about castratos in Italy.
Yeah, I mean, this year is a year where I do not want to just guess and hope that a distributor picks up a movie and it plays a festival and it does a very good job. But Cry to Heaven fits everything you would want from a film. The only thing it's missing right now is the distributor or knowing what festival. Yes. Recently, we heard they officially wrapped production.
It's going to be Venice.
It could make it to Venice this year. So for me, especially going against a film that we don't know much about, is an easy push through. It's a film that if we knew a distributor, I might send this all the way to the final four without having to think about it. But the big question is there's no distribution behind it. So it's like, what limitations can that hold going forward?
This makes more sense to have no distribution than Ink or than the other one, Jack of Spades.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like, Tom Ford is someone who can just fund whatever he wants. This book is more challenging. It is difficult. And like, to me, it just feels like the type of thing that he would just be like, this is a passion project of mine. I don't want anyone fucking with this.
I think that's what he said, is he wanted to make this without any studio interference.
And that makes more sense to me than like Joel Cohen doing a movie who like, Joel Cohen always has a studio. Yeah. Tom Ford only makes a movie when he really has something that he needs to say. This is his third movie. He's mostly a fashion guy. So to me, easy money. It's Cry to Heaven.
So moving on into the round of 32, we have a matchup of A24. Misty Green, the 16 seed, going against the 8 seed of The Invite. And for me, these are two movies I wish I could push them forward, especially looking at some of our next matchups, but they're going against each other here. So one of them has to kick the boot. I know I'm higher on both of these movies than you. For me, it's both their avenues is the audience favor that also has some critic appeal that gets their love through the screenplay categories and grows from there. Invite has stronger competition and adapted. Misty Green has a pretty open original 4th and 5th slot, but the Invite
adapted?
Yes.
What's it from?
I'm pretty sure it's based on either a movie or a show. I know when I looked it up, I had an original originally, and then I went to the Wikipedia, and it said it was based on something. I can't remember what it was, but it's an adapted, which makes the nomination a lot harder, especially when you have like The Odyssey, Project Hail Mary, Sensibility, 1949.
It looks like a more stacked category.
Yeah, so like, it's hard to find the room for it in there. All of a Sudden's adapted as well.
But it's a more high-profile cast, too.
It is. Misty Green, for me, would rely on the TIFF Avenue. We know the Invite's coming out this summer. We know that it played really well at Sundance. So it's just like getting out early allows it to kind of form its own realm in July or August, whatever it's coming out.
It could be an Indie Spirits player, could be a Golden Globes comedy player. Yeah. So I would also go The Invite. 'Cause there's more that could go wrong with Misty Green at this point.
I would agree. It would have been fun to have the 16 keep advancing, but it has to end here. Sadly, we get to a matchup where I don't want either of these movies here anymore. Saturn Returns and I Love Boosters.
I'm going I Love Boosters.
You can have it.
Let's go for it, because again, I think Demi Moore could be a thing.
I see the movie probably by the time this video is up. Boots is doing a Q&A in Philly. I'm super excited to see it.
You should ask him his thoughts on Tibet.
I'm sure that would go over really well for the audience there. However, we're moving into a matchup I think is a little bit more interesting. We have a film that you have seen. Yeah. You know that's really well, and it won Sundance, and a film that most likely you will get to see very soon.
Camp Miasma. Yeah. But Josephine, 100%. Again, I think Josephine's in picture.
Okay. Hot take. I like it.
I think it's in picture. I think Josephine is. It's going to be one of the best films of the year. It's the same thing that I said with Project Hail Mary. You only get a few films each year that has that level of acclaim, that level of love. The fact that this won an audience award at Sundance, being as dark as it is, this is a film about a 6-year-old child witnessing a rape. The fact that movie won an audience award, there's real passion behind this. Critics love it. Audiences love it. Yes, people are scared to take a chance on releasing it, but I think Sumerian Pictures is going to put everything behind this being one of the best films of the year.
We've talked about A24 a few times here. Tony is another option for them to push forward here as our 7 seed. They have The Invite as well. They have Misty Green. They have No One Cares. They've had Primetime, a few of our options in this bracket. But it's going against Cry to Heaven, which you can make a case A24 could buy. But I don't know.
They could.
I just think Cry to Heaven, regardless of the lack of distribution, just makes so much sense because of the tech appeal for the actors. Tom Ford being someone who has yet to really have his moment to shine. I get the source material is a little heavy and a little hard to get into, but also an Anthony Bourdain biopic, how big can that really be?
Yeah.
Dominic Sessa, is he someone who needs to get an Oscar nomination? No.
I'm with you. I think Matt Johnson has a little ways to go before he's an Oscar player. I think Tom Ford is beyond due.
Yeah.
He was so close for Nocturnal Animals. This sounds like it's our closest parallel to The Brutalist of this year.
Yeah, I think that's a really good I think that's a really good read, especially with the fact that it could go to Venice and play there. Maybe it even wins the Golden Lion. It gets picked up, maybe even by A24. Maybe he reteams with Focus after his last film. Maybe he goes somewhere else. We have to really see. And that's my hesitation with Cry to Heaven as we advance further in. It's like
we just don't know
playing
what it's
the guessing
do.
game of where it's going to go. But with the information we have now, you got to feel a little bit confident about it.
It's Oscar bait versus elevated Oscar bait. Actually, I would say calling Tony Oscar bait is a little disingenuous because like that's it. It's more than that. Matt Johnson is not an Oscar bait guy. I mean, you could think that Blackberry was something like that. It wasn't. Tony is going to be better than it should be, but at the same time, it's not giving me like this needs to be a contender. It's a biopic of Anthony Bourdain versus like a massive like Sistine Chapel of a film. So yeah, to me, there's no competition there.
Well, I kind of wish that Cry to Heaven and Josephine weren't on the same side of this bracket as you look at our current updates, because the top half, we're going to have The Invite versus I Love Boosters. And
let's go The Invite because I think it has Golden Globes potential, but whatever wins here loses the next round.
I agree. Like you said, the Golden Globe potential, I think this is the type of film that can typically get that solo screenplay nomination. It's just in that kind of stat category, but who knows? Maybe contenders start to drop off. Project Hail Mary maybe can't add screenplay, and The Odyssey maybe doesn't need to get screenplay, so on and so forth. So Invite works for me getting here to the Elite Eight. Now we get to what is probably our real matchup to win this.
It really is.
Because I feel like we're going to be on opposite sides here, because I'm someone who currently is in the camp of Josephine is not going to end up coming back.
Yeah, but okay. I think that we are jumping to, and I think people in general are jumping to write off Josephine is dead because it's been picked up by a distributor that no one knows. Sumerian Pictures, it's not Vertical, right? They're not Bleecker Street. They're not, we just don't know what they're going to do. And from the way that they've handled Mile End Kicks, I think that they're closer to an early A24 than they are to, or an early Neon than they are to something like Bleecker Street or Open Road Pictures or any of those other like completely no one cares distributors. To me, Josephine is their proving ground. And we know the film is spectacular. It cleaned up at Sundance. It also went to the Berlin Film Festival. It has the acclaim to last to the end of the year. This reminds me a lot of what happened with Beasts of the Southern Wild, with Minari, with all of these other major Sundance films that make it to the end of the year. To me, this is stronger than what Train Dreams was leaving Sundance last year. That said, Train Dreams did have Netflix. I'll give you that. But I just think that Josephine is so strong. It's hard to ignore it.
I guess to really help me sway me here, because I am hesitant with Cry to Heaven due to the lack of distribution at this moment. But once it gets distribution, once it plays Venice, once it gets what we can assume to be good reviews, because Tom Ford has yet to make a film that wasn't at least well received. It has text galore. It's got acting potential above the line. It could find its way into director, into screenplay. Josephine, what does it have besides screenplay and Tatum?
Mason Reeves, probably the best child performance of all time. Kvenjane Wallace, she got in as a 6-year-old girl. Mason Reeves does something, I think, far more impressive than what Wallace did.
I guess I just go back to last year. I mean, Chase Infinity wasn't 10, but she was 25 and couldn't get in for the Best Picture sweeper.
Yeah,
and lost out to Song Sung Blue.
I think that's a very different case. Because Chase Infinity, I think, like there was so much going on in that movie.
She got every precursor.
Yeah. But you're always hesitant about young performers.
Yeah.
And even when it happens, you're like, oh. I think that
they don't do them.
It's reasonable to be hesitant, but like Mason Reeves is spectacular. This gets screenplay, this could get cinematography, this could get editing. Like there is a package for this film for sure. Cry to Heaven definitely has a bigger package, but like I don't know. I could go either way here. To me, both of these should be in our top 8.
Yeah, it stinks that they're both on this side of the bracket. I'm not sure if we were to redo this, if there would be change, because I know No One Cares is still above Cry to Heaven, and Josephine, I think, is still the number 3 one here. It would still be stuck in the situation. I still lean Cry to Heaven. I think that it has a bigger range of success, where Josephine is very much one thing has to happen after another, and other contenders need to fall for it to succeed, where I think Cry to Heaven doesn't need to rely on other things dropping.
I can give you this one because regardless, either one of these films is going to be number 4 when we go to our next matchups.
That is fair. So now we have Cry to Heaven versus The Invite, and we've kind of already discussed what the winner is here. It's what we just
Cry
said.
to Heaven. It's Cry, and Josephine would have won too.
Yeah, both Josephine, both Cry to Heaven have
Oscar potential.
They have Oscar potential now.
The Invite has Golden Globe potential.
Yes, I think there's a shot for The Invite to get to Oscar potential, but it's like what I said against Josephine. It requires other movies to drop. It doesn't have it now. While Cry to Heaven and Josephine have those now to varying degrees. One is we're scared of it due to the subject matter and due to the distributor, and the other one we're scared due to the fact that it has no distributor.
So now we've got our final 4. We've got Populist versus Indie. So that's The Odyssey versus Cry to Heaven. And I think it's clear Odyssey wins that.
I would lean with that as well. I think both of these films have giant tech appeal. I think they both have avenues to see above the line success, but as I mentioned before, it feels like probably like 2 hours ago at this point, but like
definitely
the Odyssey I feel like has picture win appeal, where even if Cry to Heaven hits the highest of its highs, I think it's gonna be a film like you mentioned with The Brutalist that is too dark.
It's respected more than it's loved.
Yes, and it's something that struggles to get those number 1 votes.
I think that's gonna be the same for The Odyssey. So we'll talk about that in a moment. Because I think I might have The Odyssey lose to either of our next matchup, which is our Prestige Auteur division, which is Wild Horse 9, versus our Arthouse division, which is Fatherland/1949, whatever it's called. And to me, I think that the one with real Best Picture winning potential here is Fatherland.
I would agree with that as well, just because we have seen how McDonough films play in the past. His narrative really hasn't become a thing yet. Maybe that's brought up this year due to the fact this will be his 3rd rodeo in the Best Picture race, but we have a trailer to go off of. It looks like a lot of fun. It looks like it could maybe have some acting and screenplay prospects, but it also looks like a film that maybe doesn't have enough behind it to quantify the picture win. While maybe 1949 Fatherland is an international title, we've seen that they can win picture. It seems to have some more nuance going behind it in terms of what it's trying to talk about. Yes, it's a biopic, but it could have multiple above the line acting wins. It could have a screenplay win, a director who has been around the block before. I think both of these movies are very even. I'm kind of cool with either going forward. So I know that you're very confident and very much feeling 1949. So I'm cool to push that one to the finals.
Let's do it. I think that one has such crossover appeal. So
yeah, I think that brings us to a fun finals. It's not 2 big name directors who have been in the race before. It's Nolan looking to go back to back, getting a new type of competitor, getting a more art house, more international flavor.
Yeah. But I do think that there's an argument that both of these films is more respected than loved.
I think that's the case for our top 4.
I think that is the case for our whole top 4. We're looking for a film that's loved. And look, I really want 1949 to be that. I also want The Odyssey to be that because I love the story it's based on. I, as a kid, was a huge like Greek mythology head. The Odyssey has like unlimited tech potential. Unlimited. This could be one of the biggest films of all time, but I don't see it as a picture winner. And personally, I do see Fatherland as that. And I think it would be boring for us to be yet another group of people saying that The Odyssey is going to sweep everything. Because on Awards Expert, 53% of people think it's winning Best Picture, and that is crazy this early in the year.
Yeah, it's the same thing for our community that we have built on Discord. It's over 50% winning Best Picture as well.
Crazy.
I do fall in that 50%, but I do agree it's more so due to the fact of I'm struggling to find the other alternative. Well, I do believe that Nolan has the juice, he has the power, he has the capabilities to go back to back in picture. It's something I don't feel like the modern Academy really wants to do. My thing at this time of the year is figuring out what its number 2 competitor is, like how Oppenheimer's number 2 would have been Poor Things, which clearly Poor Things was a very much respect, maybe more so than a love movie, where last year One Battle and Sinners were both love movies. And then you go back to like the Honor year where like Brutalist and Conclave are very much respect, but I don't know if I love them enough to put them at number 1. Where like this year, I feel like we don't have that movie yet. Maybe Can will arise that maybe 1949 turns into a respect and love movie. Maybe The Odyssey comes out and it's both as well. But I'm cool, even though if I disagree, I'm cool to go with 1949 because it's different, it's unique. No one else has that. It's not in the top 10 picture in either Awards Expert community or our Filmball community. The Odyssey is number 1 in both. While it's personally when we get to our personal 10s will be my number 1. I'm cool with not having the Odyssey winning the bracket.
Let's go with it because I think it's a more fun thing for us to do.
It is.
It's more fun. It's more fun because like the equivalent would just be like Killers of the Flower Moon was our 2023 pick.
And we've said numerous times on this channel over the years when we record these in person first of the year Best Picture predictions.
You don't want to go with a placeholder.
Exactly. You don't want to go for a placeholder. And when the film feels like a placeholder, it's one of the reasons why we went away from one battle last year. And it turned out to just be that. But
it's very rare you get a movie like that.
And for that to happen 2 years in a row would be honestly crazy.
Basically 3 years in a row. Oh, no, because not Honora.
Yeah.
I was thinking back to Oppenheimer. But
that year was still Killers. That year was still Killers.
That year was still Killers, but I think that Oppenheimer was like neck and neck with it. It's like that.
Yeah.
Like, of course, it's just going to be that.
Well, I guess before we wrap up here, people still do like to see.
We should just do our top 10s.
People still like to see what your top 10s are. So
I mean, we'll throw up a graphic with our top 20s.
Yeah, might as well, a top 20. But I mean, let's still talk about these a little bit here. Maybe not for as long, but for a little bit.
All right, should we start from the bottom of our 20s or should we start from the top?
I think let's just start at number one because
number one.
We just talked about them.
We've done all of it.
I currently have The Odyssey from Christopher Nolan, and you have...
And I have 1949, Fatherland. So that's my winner. I'm going out on a limb here. I think it's fun to predict foreign films because, it's going to happen again at some point. I did it last year with Sentimental Value. And look, that was probably top 4 by the end of the year.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a bad pick. And like we just talked about in our bracket, as the light's getting darker on us, it's telling us to wrap it up. If you made this far in the video, thank you so much. Hopefully you can still see us. But yeah, I think it's still a fun pick to make. It's different. It's unique. I don't want to have the Odyssey, but I think it's still unique enough of the fact that Nolan would go back to back. Who knows? Maybe you, Arno, see the film at Cannes and be like, yeah, this is legit. This is the winner. And maybe flop over.
I did that with Sentimental Value last year.
You did do that, but I could see through. I could see through it a little bit.
Hey, look! It still got an Oscar in the end, and was
10 noms,
was
9 noms,
top
like
5 at the end of the day.
Yeah. So number 2, I currently have Wild Horse 9. I think it's safe. I don't think it's number 2 in terms of a win. I think it's number 2 in terms of a lock nomination.
Odyssey. Same reason. It's a guaranteed nomination for me.
And that's where I have Fatherland coming at my number 3 slot. It's for all the reasons that you said. I'm just not ready to put it higher because I still think with it being an international film, with it being a biopic, there's still going to be some reservations. I shouldn't say a biopic, but the type of biopic that we can expect Pawlikowski to make. Yeah. It was going to be a little bit colder, maybe a little bit more harder to really get into, where Oppenheimer was just a fun romp. But I still have it at my number 3.
Fun?
I think Oppenheimer's a really fun movie. It zips by.
So disagree. That was not a fun movie for me. Number 3 for me, I've got Sense and Sensibility. Maybe it's a little too high, but I just am riding with Georgia Oakley. I think it's going to be a big hit. I think she is going to be our female best director. I mean, we've been just having women in, and actually I have 3 female-directed films, 3 women-directed films in my top 10, because it's going to keep happening. And
hopefully it becomes the norm.
It has been the norm, and it is the norm. I think the norm is women-directed films and non-English films. And so that's what I've got here. Sense and Sensibility, I'm just big on this one, and I'm really feeling like this, maybe it could miss, but if it doesn't miss, if it is in, I think it's top 5.
I would agree. I think if it gets in, Focus typically has their films maybe in that 5-6 range, but they usually are stronger. They get the necessary nominations. Go back to something like Tar that overperformed, or The Holdovers getting an extra nomination on the morning of, or even like Begonia and Hamnet this past year. Hamnet maybe missed some stuff, but still remain top 5 all season long. So Focus knows what they're doing when they have the right movie behind them. The only time they've missed in the last 10 years was with Harriet in the Stack 2019 season. And Arrivo still got actress, it still got song. So it wasn't like it was a non-starter whatsoever. Moving to my number 4 slots, where I have Digger at the moment. Sense and Sensibility is my number 5. They're basically even. I think for what we said in their head-to-head matchup, they both have giant pros. They also have some cons, where I don't think either of them are really in the win conversation, but at this moment, I do feel good about them getting their nominations.
Yeah, I've got Project Hail Mary at number 4.
Nice. That's my 6.
Yeah, Project Hail Mary. Look, I've said it before, you don't lose passion, and a movie like that has proven that it has audience support, it has critical support, it's going to have industry support. People love this movie. That's not going away, and it's win competitive, I think, in multiple texts. And look, I mean, if Michael B. Jordan just won for a movie star performance, Ryan Gosling gives one of my favorite movie star performances I've ever seen. I've got Digger. I feel like this is completely even with my number 6, which is Wild Horse 9. These are both films from filmmakers who have been in the race in the past. They've, been in those top 2 slots multiple times. Banshees was a top 2, top 3 movie. 3 Billboards was a top 2 movie. And then you've got Iñárritu, who had The Revenant, which was definitely top 2. And you've got Birdman, which won. Both of these movies, I think, are films that are guaranteed a slot. I don't think they really have a chance of winning, though. So that's why they're floating around my number 5, number 6.
And I don't like this. We have the same top 6, just in a different order.
That's true.
That's a little scary.
Bad news.
And it's going to continue with my number 7, because I currently have Narnia in my number 7 slot. At the moment, for everything that we said before, Netflix, this seems like their best contender. It has some tech appeal. I get it doesn't have as many fantasy aspects as The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but I mean, it is recreating an older version of London, so it's going to have some production design there that it can get in with. We know that Greta Gerwig's films usually have some sort of acting showcase, and maybe, I don't trust Emma Mackey, but maybe Emma Mackey can kind of get some acclaim for this. Carey Mulligan. Daniel Craig potentially could get in for his first Oscar nomination. But, I mean, it's a Netflix machine. They're going to get a movie in. There was the year of Maestro. People like, maybe this is the year that they missed, and they still got in. So I would say if you aren't as high on Narnia.
Searchlight did it last year.
They could, but I would say the difference is at this point last year, I tried to make the Bradley Cooper thing into something when we both knew it probably wasn't something where I just didn't feel like Rental Family made sense at all. This year, Narnia at least makes sense. I understand if it flops and it comes out, it's not as good, but at this point, it makes enough sense for me to be like, yeah, Netflix. Yeah, good enough.
It's my number 8. I think Greta Gerwig has done enough for me not to doubt her, even though I don't think that this book is as strong as is what she's worked with before. But my number 7 is Fjord. Christian Mungiu. Like I said, I think there's going to be multiple non-English language films, and that's why I have both Fatherland and Fjord. This one is going to be colder. It's going to be more critic-heavy, I think, and that's why it's a little lower in my lineup, but it's still making that top 10.
Yeah, at 8's where I have Michael. I think this can just fill in the populist slot that we've seen from F1, that we've seen from Wicked year after year. They have the people who are very violently against the films, but they have tech appeal, they have broad support, and a guaranteed lineup of 10. I feel like these movies can survive. I think that Michael is going to get in off the back of its techs and crafts, as well as Domingo possibly being a win contender and supporting, and Jafar Jackson kind of having an Austin Butler moment where he's the face of the awards campaign. He makes the lead actor. He isn't going to win lead actor, but I think he will showcase it's not just going to be all old guys with like Malkovich and Cruz and maybe John Turturro and the guy from 1949 this year.
Number 17 for me.
I understand. I think that's too low, even with the reservations. I would still say have it in the top 15, but I understand.
16.
I understand.
I could go 16 over Social Reckoning.
I understand why you have it that low.
Yeah. Okay. Number 9 for me, Dune Part 3.
Nice. I have that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be huge, but I think it's still safe in. I think it's got its techs. I think that there's enough passion for that series. It's not going to wicked for good, I hope.
For me, Dune Part 3 is a film that I want to take out. I've said on this channel before, I'm going to treat this like Avatar Fire and Ash. I feel like they both came in, quote, being the end of their series. We know that there's more films to come after that. It's just there might be a little bit different to come. Obviously, Avatar came out. We were there at the initial press screen, the first one in New York. The reception in the room was cool. It was positive. I seem to be on the higher side of most people. And clearly, that's how it remained all award season long. It got surprise costumes, and it had its visual effects win. Dune, I would expect to get more. Sound visual effects nominations at least, then maybe some text and crafts. Production design, a new cinematographer potentially, costumes, makeup. But Denis not going to happen again. Screenplay probably won't happen, especially in the stacked adapted lineup.
Timothy's not getting in.
Timmy, Robert Pattinson, anyone else probably isn't coming along. I want to take this out, but this is the film that I would probably take out when we have that more populist feel-good type movie. From that indie bracket, if there was a film like If No One Cares, where we believed in that, or Misty Green, or The Invite, which I want to put in. It's my number 12 right now. It's just I don't have it in screenplay, so I can't have it in picture. I want a more feel-good movie in here that feels like more audience and festival based, but I don't see what that is at the moment, so I can't deny Dune because I don't have the alternative.
Yeah, number 10, I'm going with Josephine, because I mean I feel like I've laid out my argument. It's so good. It's going to be one of the most critically acclaimed films of the year. Audiences love it. It has that popular support. I'm sticking with it. It is I think it's just going to be one of the best films of the year.
And for my 10 slot, this is where I really, really probably should have Cry to Heaven, but I'm sticking to myself if I'm not considering that in any of my categories until I know it is this year. I know it's strong implication of it will go to Venice, but I would say unlike Fatherland, we don't have the insider knowledge there. So in the spot, I guess I'm going to put Fjord as my 10 slot.
Yeah,
Fjord. I'll say it right eventually. Fjord will be my 10th slot. I don't believe in it, but I do agree with you that we will see multiple international feature nominees get in here. Maybe this could be All of a Sudden. Maybe this could be the Netflix film.
Could be Sheep in a Box.
Yeah, it could be Sheep in a Box. It could be something that we haven't even heard about, but it's kind of just here because I can fit Reinsva in my actress. I can fit it in original screenplay. Stan is my 5 or 6 in actor.
It would make sense for director.
It could make sense for director as well. And like it has what it needs to. Where all my next films in line, like Jack of Spades, I'm scared because it's not going to Cannes anymore. Cry to Heaven is. I don't want to wait and play like, oh, I have this in 8 categories, and then Venice comes and it's like, oh, wait, we're not ready. And then like, oh, wait, I've spent 6 months having this film in. The Invite I can't fit into adapted. Misty Green, I don't want to take that big of a swing quite yet. Social Reckoning is something that I feel good for its above-the-line prospects. I don't feel good for its picture prospects. I think that's clearly a screenplay, maybe 1 or 2 actors, but it's not a picture thing that we see routinely year after year.
So we have 9 of the same 10. That's a bad sign.
It is a bad sign.
This early on, that's a bad sign.
Normally, we're like 5 out of 10 overlapping.
That's crazy. But, last year you were on Eddington and Alpha and Die My Love.
Those were fun swings. Like I said in the video last year, I'd rather go down with Eddington than predict After the Hunt because I can't figure out what to do for my 10th slot.
Fair enough, man.
Which maybe that's a sign I shouldn't do the film I put in my 10th slot, and I should just put in Cry to Heaven, or I should just put in The Invite, but sticking to it.
Yeah, fair enough. But that brings us to the end of a very long video.
Very long video.
But I mean, I feel like people got a lot of information. I feel like we went into multiple different avenues for every single film.
We did, and with doing it in this bracket-style matchup, you get to hear our takes on it multiple different times in different scenarios. Where maybe
in different ways.
We talked about the film in one instance in round 1, but then round 2 goes against a stronger competitor. Now you get to hear us kind of talk negatively or positively against it in different avenues, like you said. But if you made it this far in the video, hopefully you enjoyed something. So a like helps our channel continue to grow. A subscription keeps you up to date with everything Matt is going to Cannes. I have some live streams in the meantime, just chatting awards every Sunday until your film school schedule kind of wraps up a little bit.
Yeah, which is coming to a close for the year very soon.
Very soon. And of course, comment down below what you agree with, what you disagree with. I'm sure we've had some predictions in here that are off the rails, like No One Cares going out in round number 1.
Yeah, people are going to be mad at that, but trust us, we'll be right eventually.
Yeah, so until next time, my name's Dyl.
And my name's Matt, and this has been Fantasy Filmball.
Bye.